Just back from Texas, and we have a double dose of goodness for you. We kick things off with four-time Classic qualifier, former Bass Nation national champion, and the newest Elite Series champion, Pat Schlapper. But that's not all. We also back it up with jakestake. Jake Latendresse, Bassmaster videographer, joins the show and gives us all the goods from Fork and the Sabine River. Both of them join me this week on...
I'm Bob Cobb for the Bassmaster. Welcome to Mercer.
Welcome one, welcome all, friends, family, freeloaders, fishing freaks, and of course you, my humpers. Happy hump day to all of you, and welcome into the Awkwardly Honest Fishing Podcast that goes by my last name, which is Mercer. This is the 213th edition of the Mercer Podcast, and clearly we are back in the home studio. I hope life is treating you well wherever you're watching or listening from. I hope it's a very, very good week. Just back from Texas to totally different but very cool events. We had Lake Fork, which, we flirted with the all-time weight record. Tucker Smith ends up winning that event. Congrats, Tucker. Nobody shocked to see him win an Elite Series event, but just an incredible event. So many cool things. Kyoya led the event for the majority of it. And the good news is we have Jake Latendresse join us this week, and he was on the back deck of Kyoya's boat. So hopefully he will drop a few nuggets of information of just the incredible things that Kyoya does on the water. So we got that. And then we went to the Sabine River, something totally different. We went from an event where we were flirting with the all-time weight record to an event that we ended up sending the all-time smallest weight record. Pat Schlapper, an amazing victory though. Both two totally different tournaments, but if you ask me, both very fun to watch. Watching Schlapper catch him on a buzzbait on the final day, just seeing, and not just him. I mean, the amount of big fish we saw caught, relative big fish, I get it. The amount of big Sabine River fish we saw caught on a spinner bait, on, top waters, on frogs, on this snagless Sally was even throwing. So it was a very kind of old school-esque tournament. So you had one that was dominated by forward-facing sonar and one that was pretty much the exact opposite. I think there was just one or two instances throughout the week that I actually saw forward-facing sonar actually playing whatsoever. Cool thing for me personally is I got to do a lot of the FS1 coverage with Tommy Sanders and Davey Height, and it was a lot of fun. They were on site. Just really cool to work with them. I mean, me and Davey have worked together a lot, and me and Tommy have as well, but it's just been a long time since me and Tommy have had the opportunity to do that. So I really enjoyed being part of that team. It was a good few weeks. I got to go fishing in between, blasted them on a frog with my buddy Todd. So that was a good time. All in all, it was a good trip. And we got lots of goodness to share with you here this week. And next week's show, I teased a big announcement this week. It's going to be another week, but it's a big announcement. And some big announcements take a little longer, but we have a very big announcement that many of you are going to be very excited about coming up next week. So do not miss next week's show. That's all I can tell you about it. But this week's show is a fun one. I kick things off with Pat Schlapper, who is an amazing dude, a guy who I've been a fan of for years. His family's just great people. And it was just awesome to see what he pulled off this week. They deserve it. They deserve it. But just great people. And hey, sometimes people ask, what anglers do you have a bobblehead on? Well, I just happen to have and always have had a Pat Schlapper bobblehead. That's pre-tournament victory Pat Schlapper. But his parents gave that to me several years ago. And it is a proud piece of the bobblehead collection that many of you have donated to, and I thank you for that. So yeah, great show. We're going to kick things off with Pat. Then we're going to be joined by Jakestake. Jake Latendresse's breaking it down. He's got lots of goods. He was in the boat with Lee Livesey and Fork, Kyoya Fujita. Then he was kicked off Sabine River with Jay Shikurit. Finished it off with John Cruz. So he's got lots of news, notes, and nuggets, as Tommy and Zona always call them. But first, we're going to kick things off with Pat Schlapper. And as I said, he's the true working man story on the Elite Series. I mean, he had a job at Shields, left that job to chase this dream, double qualified for the Elite Series, qualified through the Bass Nation and through the Opens all in 1 year, which is incredible. He's made 4 classics, become very consistent, but he's knocked at the victory door several times, and it just kind of got pulled away from him at the last minute. But it is cool to see a hardworking, working class dude finally get the W. And as I said, he's got an amazing family that's been through a lot in the last year. I mean, he lost his brother almost a year ago. We were at Smith Lake when he got the call. And they've lost other family members more recently, but it's just been every family goes through that. I mean, I remember I used to think when I was a kid, maybe one day when I grow up, nothing bad will happen. But sadly, part of life is bad things happen. But it's nice to see some good things happening for a good family that's been through a lot. So it's a fun interview. We go a lot of different directions. He tells some on the water tales that will have some of you all whatever. I mean, you'll enjoy it. One thing about Schlapper, he always tells it like it is. I think this is his 3rd or 4th time on the podcast. For that very reason, he's a great guest, always tells it like it is. But this is the first time we get to have him on as an Elite Series champion. Pat Schlapper, you're a freaking Bassmaster Elite Series champion.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. Been close, really close 2 other times, and feels good to finally do it. You know, and I honestly don't think it's really set in yet because I haven't had time to like really sit down and relax and unwind and play through everything in my mind and process everything. So, I mean, it is nice to sit and look at the trophy, but I just really haven't had the time to really enjoy it yet.
Yeah. Did you always, I mean, I don't mean this in an arrogant way, but did you always in your head realize you'd win one of these?
No.
Really?
It's so hard to win. I mean, you know, I've had a couple other tournaments where I've been in the zone and like, you know, at times I definitely felt like I could win, but that would, you know, if that happens once a year for me, like it did this week, that's good. I mean, like to have the practice and a game plan and the confidence and the mindset, you can't make that happen. It's got to organically happen. And I'm a very humble person anyways. And it's just like, very rarely have I gone into a tournament, an Elite Series tournament, and be like, I feel like I can win this one. Maybe in the 5 years it's happened 4 or 5 times, maybe, where I felt like I had a chance. So, I'm not one of them guys that's be like, I'm going to win every tournament. And I just want a whole stack of blue trophies. Like, yeah, everybody wants that, but it's not realistic. I mean, it can happen. You can go on runs, and I'm hoping I'm at the start of one of those runs, but it's rare to get in the proper mindset where you have a legit chance to win, in my opinion.
So you felt before this tournament started, you felt like, hey, I got a shot at this one.
Yeah, you know, obviously I've had a bad year and I've been in a bad mindset, and I just had like out of the ordinary things happening to me, you know, with just equipment and just stuff on the water, stuff off the water. And I mean, just like I couldn't get a break, and I'm not like a consistent top 10 angler, but like I'm I don't know if I've been outside the classic cut for the last 3 seasons. Like I'm pretty consistent as far as being in the classic talk, you know, and having good events. Like I have like a good amount of like 35th to 20th place finishes, which is good for for being able to survive and stay doing this. I mean, like I said, I don't call it a career. I don't even know what to call it. It's not a career. It's just maybe something fun I get to do that I make a little money at every once in a while. But like, why is it not a career? I don't know, because it's just like what I left at Shields was a career. I don't know what this is. You know what I mean? Once again, I'm not one of them guys that's like, I'm going to become a billionaire bass fishing, because it's not realistic. It can happen, but I mean, how many do you think on the Elite Series trail are raking in hundreds of thousands of dollars a year? I mean, I don't think it's that many, maybe a few, but I just enjoy doing it. And there's always potential to have that happen. And I'm hoping that this win will help maybe take me up a little bit of a notch where, maybe I can start to think like, all right, this is good. I mean, it is good, but you know what I mean? Like, because for me, when I left Shields, a lot of people just don't understand what I left from a financial standpoint. And that's what I always look back on in those tough times. Like this year, I mean, I had like one of my managers text me all the time, and I'm like, dude, I'm about ready to just come back and beg to run the coffee shop at the store. Like just because like it's so hard to stay at this, with any sort of consistency and just to survive. So I don't know. I just have a hard time calling it a career. Maybe that's bad. I don't know.
Well, no, I mean, you can call it what you want. It's how you make your living. Is it something you plan to do for as long as possible?
No, I mean, I want to do it till I'm 50. That's always been my goal, is to be 100% done. I mean, as far as from a financial standpoint, I want to be able to be in the position where if I want to be done with it, I can be done with it. And I don't want to have to go do any other job. Like, I just want to be able to go hunt, fish. My wife has sacrificed a ton for me doing this. I mean, she's home alone all the time. Like, and we love to travel, and she's got a lot of like places she wants to go. And then I want to go too, but just more like places you're going to go for a couple weeks that are a little bit more on the spendy scale than the normal trips that we usually do. So I want to make sure that, we get to do as much of that as we can, because she sacrificed so much now. I want to make sure she gets what she really wants to do on the back end, because I mean, if she didn't like stick with me, it'd be pretty tough.
Yeah. Yeah. So you feel like you owe that to her?
Yeah, I do. And like I said, we still get to do a lot of cool stuff, but like, when I literally got home yesterday at 2:30, I'd been on the road since before the Pasca tank. So I don't even know how long ago that was. Month and a half. I don't know. And I was gone for 2 months the first stretch, and now I'm home for 2 weeks, and I got to leave again for a week. So, I mean, she's here taking care of our dog, trying to take care of the house, and like, just all the normal stuff that it's a lot easier when you have a team of people to do it. So, and we both work really hard and like try to be super smart with the money we have, and just so we can be in position to do that when we get to be an age where we can maybe have that financial freedom and still be in good enough shape and the right mindset where we still get to go do stuff and want to go do stuff. Because I've seen it my whole life. People work till they're 65 years old when you're supposed to work based on what society says and what we're told since third grade all the way through college. Like, people work to that age, and then they get to be 65 and they're like, well, no, I don't know what the hell to do. I don't even want to do anything because my body's shot, my mind's shot. They just get in the groove of just having that routine of going to work every day, and then they retire, and then they hang out for a couple months, and then they're back to a part-time job because they're bored. Like, that's not who we are. Like, we want to go do stuff. So that's my goal, is to just, which I'm 42 now, I think I'm 42. I mean, it's my birthday in April. I think I'm 42 or 43 something. So in 7-8 years, I just want to be in that position. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to quit. Like, if I'm still feel like I'm competitive and like, you know, I'm still enjoying it, then I'll probably keep doing it. But I just want to be in that position to where I have the option to walk away and just be comfortable financially. But my wife's a lot younger than me too. So,
oh, really?
You know, at that point, if I'm 50, I mean, I doubt she'll be ready to be retired by that point. So, we'll see. I just want to get in the position where I can, if I want to.
How old's your wife? Are you allowed to say?
I think she's 6 or 7 years younger than me.
Oh, okay. All right. I just had to ask. Like, you said she's a lot younger. Yeah. I don't want somebody's.
Well, for me, yeah. I mean, she's not a lot younger. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, I
mean, Bill Belichick's girlfriend's 24 and he's like 74. I mean, solid. 50 years between those two.
Yep. That's true love.
Oh yeah, for sure. She's truly in love with something. Whatever, Bill, enjoy yourself. So what drives you? Why do you want to be, when you say you stepped away from a career at Shields, and we've talked about this before, and why do you feel the need to do that? What do you want to, is the Elite Series, does it help you prove something? Does it fuel something? What does the Elite Series give you?
Well, I mean, this is kind of the way I look at, like, when I was at Shields, and the reason I left Shields was because I've always wanted to do it. And like, it's like one of those things, like, and now that I'm doing it, and in the tough times, I look back at that and I'm like, I wish I would have stayed there. But if I would have stayed there, I'd have been wishing I was here. So
100%.
it was just, you know, it's just one of those things. Like, the Elite Series, it's like a kid that loves hockey and wants to play in the NHL. Like, there's very few people that get to do it, and I get to do it. So that's what it is for me. It's just a pure love for the sport and the competition. You know, I don't do anything else competitive anymore. I don't skate anymore. I just don't do anything. Like, I don't even golf anymore. So it's like, that's my competition. And I just love being a part of it. Like, it's so cool to like have Jason Christie, Gerald Swindle, Justin Atkins, just people I've looked up to that know me and come up and talk to me and congratulate me and give me advice. Like, that's just like, it's just weird to me, you know, that I'm in that group. And now that I've won one, I feel like I'll maybe even get a little more respect. I mean, I get a lot of respect from most of the guys with the exception of a couple. But it's one of those things that it's so cool to be a part of it. You know, it'd be like me when I was, you know, in 7th grade and was obsessed with hockey and like, and then being able to play in the NHL. Like, that's what it is to me.
Yeah. No, it's a very cool thing. And you're right. Very few people get to experience it. You do get a lot of respect from guys. I think you realize that, but like, people were very happy to see you win. And I think that the world knows how hard you've worked for this.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, a lot of guys stayed after. You know, it was cool that Patrick and Koya tied and had to both be on stage when I won, because they beat me on Toledo Bend last year. And like, obviously they both wanted to win, but like, looking back at the videos, like Patrick was clapping freaking hard. I mean, I really feel like, I mean, they were obviously bummed, but I really feel like deep down, a part of them was like, not that they wanted me to win, but they were genuinely happy for me.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like, because they know like how bummed I was last time. And like, it was just when I was waiting in the boat to come through, and I was like, I knew I'd beat Patrick, and then I heard Koya's weight and they tied. I'm just like, oh my God, they couldn't get any better, because now they both got to stand there and watch me. Because last year I had to weigh in last, you know what I mean, and get beat and then have the walk of shame. Like, it was a cool moment, and there was so many guys waiting, Easton and Brandon Polnick, and there's just so many of them guys, Kyle Patrick, waiting for me to like they were happy for me. So it was really neat.
What you've done in the last few weeks, I think, is amazing, because when I talked to you at the Valster event, you know what I mean, with Beatdown and AFTCO and everybody, me and you talked for just a few minutes, stand around with the guys, and you seemed very down about the season. Like, you basically joked and said, well, the only way I'm making the Bassmaster Classic is if I go and win lacrosse. But you said you hope to win that, but to turn around what happened at Fork, I mean, that fish catch at Fork, and it feels like from that moment forward, like, you feel like a different human. And this is before you even won. Like, I feel like, am I just imagining that, or do you really feel like you've turned things around? No,
there's definitely a shift in my mindset at Fork, specifically with that fish catch, but like the way that morning happened, and then catching that 8 pound, 10 ouncer. Because when I hooked it, I'm like, this is going to come off. I know it is, because that's how my season's gone. And then I landed it and I'm like, okay, we can do this. And then from then on, it was just,
bring me through that, like what happened. Cause a lot of people might not understand what you mean.
Yeah. So basically I was throwing a big crankbait, on a big square bill crankbait, and I had a small bass eat it. And when I got it to the boat, there was like 3 or 4 giant ones trying to eat the bait, eat the fish, eat the bait, whatever. Well, one of them ended up eating, like, in my mind, I played it over a bunch of times, but I like walked it, like I was just like, oh my God, and like put my head back because there's all those big ones. And then I like put my head back down, and all of a sudden I felt my rod jerk, and a mouth of just a giant mouth come wallowing out of the water, and it had eaten the bait. And it was hooked on the back hook or the front hook, one of them. And it was just swinging its head, and that other fish was flying around, and the little one came off, which 99% of the time, the big one comes off. But then I got the big one hooked, but A, it's on a crankbait. B, there was another fish on there when it ate it. C, it ate it right at the boat. D, it's a giant. And so everything's working against me. But I like fight it out, walk it around the boat and get it. And it was an 8 pound, 10 ouncer. It's like, and I've since Bass wanted the footage to air it, but I'm like, no, because people see where I'm at, and thank God, because like, I didn't know it, but that's where Jay was catching a lot of his fish, because we kind of had a little run in later that day. We just weren't there at the same times. So had it shown that, and then it would have affected him. Possibly if all them, ladder fishermen would have showed up and sat there and caught them. It's just, that's the worst part about live.
What do you mean ladder fishermen?
Well, all them guys, they go stand up on ladders and catch them off beds down there. Not that's what I was doing, but I call them ladder fishermen. Probably the same guys that get mad at us for using forward facing, but they go stand on a 12-foot ladder. You know what I mean? They're fine. Most of them are nice, but it's just like, I've never seen that anywhere else in my life. I mean, I've been all over the country sight fishing. Then you go down there and you go in a cove and you're like, what the heck is that guy doing? Is he like trimming the limbs on that tree or something? Why is he up on that ladder? And then, he's got ratchet straps to this ladder and he's standing up there. It's like, what the hell? But I mean, I just didn't want people to like see where I was. And I look back at it and I had my map on my locator pulled up. So it'd have been super easy for someone to be like, oh, I know where that is. Let's go back there tomorrow morning and sit there. Let's go out there right now and catch them. So I'm really glad I didn't let them do it. And especially because Jay was catching fish there in the afternoon too. And I mean, he leading AOY, and I just didn't want to have any impact on him, even if he did yell at me for fishing there.
Did he yell at you? I've never heard Jay Shakir yell at anyone.
He since apologized, but he could have taken a different approach to the way he did. But I let him know that, and he apologized, and I love Jay. I mean, I want the best. I've known him for a long time, known his dad for a long time, respect him a lot, and that's basically what I had to convey to him. Like, dude, I wouldn't do that to anybody, but let alone you, who's leading AOI, got a chance to win this tournament. Like, I didn't know. I mean, I had seen you back in this area, but you didn't start there. Like, I fished it day 2 and 3 in the morning, and I mean, I was gone before I ever seen you come in the creek. Like, I wouldn't do that to you. I just wouldn't do that to him. So, and he felt bad, and I understand, why. I mean, he, like I said, approached it differently than he should have, but he understands that now. And I don't think he was like, I think it was just some emotion, and he's obviously got a ton of pressure on him. So I don't have any hard feeling. I love him. I mean, I want him to win AOI, and he's just a good dude. And he was just caught up in the moment. Not a big deal.
That happens quite a bit on the water, though, doesn't it? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not talking full out wars, but like where somebody doesn't know you were there, and people get heated, and then afterwards it's talked about.
Yeah, it happens a lot. And most of the time people are pretty cordial. There's a couple people that they're not, and they just, I just try to avoid them. And, in the past I've had confrontations with some people, and when I was early on in fishing the elites, and I would handle it a lot differently now than I did back then, because I just was like, oh, geez, I don't know. That's weird. Pull up and start casting at the same patch of grass I've been fishing for 2 hours, like 50 feet from me. Like, that's weird, but maybe that's how they do it here. But now that wouldn't happen, and it's, most people are pretty good about it, and you talk it out, and it's not a big deal, but there's a few of them that just don't care.
Why wouldn't it happen now? Did you change the way you act, or just people have more respect for you?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not saying they wouldn't pull up on me, but, they sure as hell wouldn't come cut me off without, having a jig in their back, or me, giving them some choice words. Like, because some people let people do it. And that's why some of them keep doing it, is because people don't have the spine to say, what the hell are you doing, dude? Like, don't even talk to me and say, most guys are gonna be like, hey, I'm going to go to the back. Is that all right? Or I'm going to go fish the other side of the point. Is that all right? And most of them will respect if you say, no, I'm kind of been working this 200-yard stretch for the last 2. Most of the guys will be like, okay, that sounds good. I'll go up to the next point. Those are the guys that get it and respect you. But the guy that comes wheeling in front of you and says, hey, it doesn't say anything. And then you say something to them, and then they get confrontational. Those are the guys that just don't care. And, I'm not the type of person like most guys it's starting to kind of come out a little bit now that I've talked to Corey Johnston a lot. Like, it's starting to kind of get spread around my mentality and how I used to handle things in a lot of scenarios. And, a lot of people don't know my true, like I get pretty pissed, and I can't always handle it the way I used to. But now I'm to the point where I've been there 5 years. I don't care if you've been there 20, you're not doing that to me. You shouldn't do that to anybody. You know what I mean? So, like I said, there's still a couple people, honestly, one in particular that we're not going to talk about, but that I've had, not for quite a while, but I don't think he respects anybody, honestly, but, it's fine for the most part. These guys are all, I had so many people respect me in this tournament. Guys that knew where I was fishing. And they didn't go there. Logan Parks was going up. He was heading up that direction on day 2 or 3. And I'm like, dude, where are you going? I'm going up to that bridge. And I'm like, well, you can't get to the bridge. Well, yeah, I didn't practice. And I knew he was talking about where I was fishing. I said, well, I'm fishing the stuff right before the bridge. So And he's like, okay, I won't fish that. Well, then he come running out of there like 5 minutes later. I'm like, well, he didn't fish very long. And he came up to me at the weigh and he's like, dude, just so you know, like what you were fishing was what I was going to fish. I thought it was a bridge, but it was what you described. So I didn't fish it. I'm not going to go there. Like, just so you know, that's a huge deal to me. Same with like Emil, you know, Emil didn't go up there. Matt Robertson, Brian Schmidt. I mean, like that's, you know, that means a lot to me. Like, I'll remember that because there's going to be scenarios where I'll be in a position to do the same thing for them, and I will. So most of the guys are like that, you know, and they had every right to go there because they had fished it and found it. It's not like, you know, they saw me catching them and went there because there was no way for anyone to see me unless they were right there. So like they were just going to fish it. You know what I mean? So that means a lot to me.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's a lot of that. The other stuff outshines it. It's just how it is. I mean, plain and simple, you just named a bunch of names that were good. But if you had to name the one dude you were talking about that was bad, it would get more clicks. It's just the way the world is. Yeah. Right or wrong.
Yeah. And I don't think that guy's bad. I mean, I think he's just an angry person in general. Like, I just, you know, I don't know how to approach him. Like, I just don't. And like, I know I've never done anything. It's just, but that's just how he is with everybody. I just don't, like, I don't know if I walk by him, if he's going to say hi or punch me in the face. Like, that's just how I feel about, and I think that's how everybody feels. But it's like, I don't think he's a bad person. That's just his personality. So, but you're right. If I would start dropping names and talking about instances, you'd probably get 10 million views.
I'm not asking you to do that, to be clear.
I'm not going to do it. But like I'm saying, that's just how the sport is. I just named some guys that did something positive and like helped, really made an impact on me personally. And I'll probably still get shit talked on this thing. You know what I mean? You can't do anything without being negative. I just hate it. So sick.
Well, the people definitely won't clip it off and share it. Like, I mean, if you named anything that anybody's ever said, people will take that little clip and turn it into a Twitter thing, TikTok thing, whatever, and they'll just take that little clip. But if it's positive, you just don't seem to see that often. But
yes, somebody will cut that up and make a post. And who do you think it is? What's your guess?
Oh,
top guess gets a free hat and a pencil. You know what I mean? Like, I just freaking hate it. It's just, this world is, God, it's so hard to just, I mean, I don't know. I'm just sick of that side of it. I really, really am.
Yeah. It's funny. I had a long conversation with Rick Clunn yesterday, and we talked about just that. And he was like, it hasn't changed. He said, it's always been that way. It seems bigger now because of social media, but he said, like, forever. I mean, he's talked to me about how flipping, in his opinion, is basically the same stuff that forward facing sonar went through. You know what I mean? Where it's like, this is wrong. You're accessing fish that weren't ever accessed before. You shouldn't. Like, it's out of control. The rods are too long. And then in time, they made rod restrictions. And now it seems like that's made up. Like, that if I say that to you, you're like, well, surely nobody ever said anything about flipping. But Rick was there for.
There was an article that Bass did. Bass did an article about D. Thomas and that whole thing when he was beating everybody, and so then people had a meltdown, and that's why they had a rod length restriction, and like, that's just human nature. But the problem now is, you know, back in 1980, whatever it was when that happened, everybody sitting in their mom's basement waiting for her to bring breakfast to them wasn't a tough guy. You know what I mean? All these people are tough guys. And
there's a lot of tough guys.
You know what I mean? Because they can be. They don't have consequences. Back in the day, you had consequences if you were going to talk shit at the boat landing instead of on your computer. You're walking away with a bloody face. But now it's just, you can't do that because you don't know who it is. It could be a 70-year-old man. It could be who knows what it is.
Yeah.
And I hate that. Like, so after I got beat on Toledo Bend, like, I was bummed. You know how it is, right? Like, I have to be the last one to weigh in.
Yeah.
And I go up, I know I'm going to get beat. And the crowd was giant there. And it was a really cool setup where there was kind of a walkway along the lake and they had it like fenced off, like people could talk to you. And I talked to people and signed a bunch of autographs, after just getting beat and hearing the celebration. And a bunch of my friends and family came. They were in the parking lot by the boat. So I was over there talking to them, talking to a bunch of different fans. And I was bummed. And I get this message on Facebook or something. And it was a lady. And she's like, I can't believe you displayed that poor sportsmanship and you walked off the stage and you didn't even want to talk and all you did was just leave. And I'm like, I was pissed. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I was like out in the parking lot for over 2 hours talking to people. I'm like, they don't interview the guy who got his ass stomped on stage after he gets beat. Like, that's how it works. Like the person who wins is the one who gets all the, and then all of a sudden, since I responded, okay, well, that's really nice of you. And then their tone changed because they got called out. It's like, that's just how people are. And a lot of those people act like that because no one ever calls them out. So it's just a different world. It's like you don't even know how it works. And you got the nerve to go and send me a message chewing me out for being for displaying poor sportsmanship. It's like, oh my God, these people, what are you thinking? Do you have a functional brain?
No, it's wild. It's what I get roasted all the time for not talking to the guy. And I'm like, I have tried to talk to the person that's not a good situation to talk. Even if you lose the freaking Super Bowl, you're the quarterback of a Super Bowl. You get to walk off the field and they generally don't talk to that guy till much later, when that dude has showered, decompressed. But to turn to somebody and be like, you lost. What does this feel like? It's just insane. And some of it I write off because I get it. Some of it comes from the fans, like fans that wanted you to win. And they're like, well, Pat went up there and he, his weight got called and then he just walked off. And that's all we got to see of Pat. And they feel like they're mad because they wanted Pat to win, right? They wanted you to win, right? But some of it's just, dude, people are crazy. You know how I do the dumb backstage intros for you guys in the top 10. This past week, I'm yelling in your faces as ridiculous and theatrical as I am. And I guess Mullins, and I'll give you guys knuckles, pat you in the back, high five you, whatever it is as you walk past. I mean, I'm balancing a lot of things up there. I'm trying to remember stats, what's coming next. There's cameras, there's different. So I guess Mullins walks past me and goes to high five me. I don't notice it. So I totally leave him hanging. But if you pay close attention to the video, you hear me. I actually notice it and I turn and I'm like, sorry for leaving you hanging as he walks on the stage. Mm-hmm. Somebody lit me up that I'm a jerk that I chose not to high five Mullins. Like, I'm like, you're out of your freaking, like, really? That's what you think? Like, let me besmirch David Mullins after I just built him up as much as I
saw
could. It's so stupid.
I saw that and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, this freaking turd has nothing better to do than to analyze a video of like what you do, which is awesome. I mean, that's one of the coolest parts of making the top 10 is like getting that goosebump moment of you yelling in your face and walking out. Like, you got some turd that's gonna talk crap about it. It's so interesting.
But it is what it is, dude. It's part of the job. I respond to a lot of those people. And I'm like, well, what are you really mad about? Because I get it. Like, I mean, something went wrong and then you went on and you're like, oh, great. Like it's just, everybody's got a voice. And sometimes I say dumb shit and sometimes other people do too. But let's talk about this tournament specifically. When did you first think, I think I got a shot to win this one?
Well, I mean, I put the boat in that first morning of practice and stopped on a random bank and just started catching them. Nice, like decent ones. And then like that whole day, I just was getting bites everywhere. And like, I talked to Atkins, multiple times throughout the day. He gets bored. So he calls me and I'm like, every time he called me, he'd be like, oh, there's another one. I'm like, that's a nice one. He's like, what do you mean? How many of you caught? And I'm like, telling him, he's like, geez, I can't believe. He's like, and he kept saying all week, he's like, you're going to win this thing. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm like, it's practice. And like, you know how that goes. And there's going to be 80 boats in here, which there was. But I had a good practice and like was confident that I was going to get bites, and I was getting enough decent bites in practice that I thought I could do well. And then when I found those tubes, I was like, okay, if I can get here, I know there's good quality ones here. If I can get here, I might have a good chance to have one good bag one day. And it changed my strategy because I had planned on starting on some lower stretches with that buzzbait, because I could do it till about 9 o'clock and just cover tons of water. And I would get 8 to 12 bites every morning of practice, just fishing random banks. And they would be better than average size fish. So I told myself, I'm like, if I'm the top 20 in boat draw, I'm going to the tubes. If not, I got to start down below because it's so far up there. And if I get all the way up there and someone's there, I got to turn around, come all the way back. But then I drew boat 49, which is about the worst because it's right in the middle.
Right in the middle.
Yeah. It doesn't make the decision for you. Because if I'd have been boat 80, I wouldn't have gone.
Yeah.
And I'm like sitting there thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? This is like, I'm going to fish to win, which everybody says they do, but they don't all the time. Like, had I been in 20th in points, I probably wouldn't have done it. But since I was in 75th, I'm like, whatever. Worst case scenario, I run up there, someone's there, I scramble the rest of the day, and like, that's that. So I'm like, I'm going up there. And I went up there and no one was there. And I started catching them right away. And once the sun got right, I caught 4 real good ones right away. And I'm like, holy cow, I got a good bag. I got a really good bag. And no one else tried going up there day one. So I hung around till like 12:30. The only other person who was up there was Kenta, but he knew where, like he knew he was fishing a couple different places. He didn't fish where I was. Like he knew, that's the other guy who respected my stuff a lot. Because we talked about it before we even took off about where we were going, and he didn't go there. So that was a big decision. Like that was a tournament winning decision to go there. Yeah. And so after day one, I was like, geez, okay.
Did you stay? Sorry to interrupt you. Did you stay there till 12:30? Were you kind of protecting it, or were you just? Yeah,
I just wanted to see who tried to get in there. Because like then I would know, like, okay, that guy tried to get in here, and then I could pay attention at takeoff and be like, okay, he's ahead of me, so he's probably going to go there.
Yeah,
just to kind of like get a plan of like what I was going to do. Because once again, I'm like, I don't want to bypass all that other good stuff on the lower end to come up here and someone's sitting there. Yeah. So that was a big deal. And then like Brian Schmidt, I saw him up there in practice. And I guess he talked to Bob. I'm really good friends with Bob Downey. And he said he talked to Bob in the weighing line or something. He's like, yeah, I was going to go up there, but, I know Pat went up there, so I don't know what to do. And the next morning, Schmidt came up to me before takeoff. And he's like, listen, like, I was going to go up there, but you were out ahead of me, so I didn't go there, and I'm not going there today. I just want you to know that, like, I'm going to give it to you, like, go win. Like he was super cool about it because he could have went there. Now it was pretty well burned out at that point because I leaned on him hard. I did get one really good one there on day 2, but it was, and I think I got 3 of my 5 fish there on day 2, but it was a lot tougher because they're just, them fish were just, I probably caught a dozen keepers there the first day. So they were pretty well stung, but either way, he could have went there. And if he went there, it potentially changed the whole outcome of the tournament.
Yeah. I think the average person doesn't realize how big of a deal it is for him to talk to you before takeoff, not just because he's not going there, but because it's not going to be in your mind now. Like right away, you're like, okay, he's not going to be there. You know what I mean? It just allows you. I feel it would allow you to be a lot calmer in your approach.
Well, yeah. And then it just gives me the confidence that I'm not going to run all the way up there and there's going to be someone being there. Like if he wouldn't have told me, then I'd have been like, okay, I really got to pay attention when I'm running through here to see if I see him, to see where he was yesterday, to see if he stopped. Because if I see him stop, then I know he's probably not up there. So I'd have been like this the whole time running up to see if I could see Schmidt anywhere. But instead he told me, he's like, dude, I'm not going. So then I'm running up there and I'm like, all right, most likely no one's going to be there. I mean, because I hung around there almost all day and I saw Matt Robertson when I was coming out and he's like, where the hell did you come from? And I'm like, well, I'll tell you if you don't go there. He's like, I ain't going any further than this. I'm like, all right. So I told him, him and Kenta were the only two I'd seen up there that day. So, and I knew Matt wasn't going to go up there. So after he told me that, I'm like, all right, I think I can get part of another day out of that spot. And I did. I caught, one really good one and a couple other keepers that, got me through the day.
So, and then day 2, and then you switched to your jig, caught some jig fish, right? In the afternoon. Yeah.
And I caught him like the first day I caught him on that jig and a creature bait. And the second day, I was catching them around that on a jig and the creature bait and the drop shot a little bit. But then like on day 2, they started like I lost, like kind of hooked a good one up there on the jig and lost it. And I missed another one. And then it's like I got to put it down. They're not biting it as good. And then I actually lost one on live out in the main run, a nice one on it. And after that, I'm like, I got to put it down because I want to throw it, but I have to put it down because for whatever reason, they just didn't bite it as good. And then I started catching them better on the little creature baits out, 2 or 3 different creature baits I was throwing. So I think that was a big deal too, just to be like, I know you want to throw the jig. You love throwing the jig. Put it down. Just put it down because they're not biting it as good as they were the first day and a half.
So then day 3, you still went back up there, right? To the
day
pipes?
3, I didn't start there. Day 3,
no, you didn't start there, but you went there.
No, I did go up there because I had figured out on day 2, really on day 1, like once the sun got really high, there was a few parts of that deal that they concentrated on, and they wouldn't bite anything else but a drop shot. But like day 2, when I went back there in the afternoon, like I had the poles down and like fished everything with the little creature bait, and I threw a spinner bait a little bit, couldn't catch anything, and I picked up the drop shot and just boom, boom, boom. I caught 3 like right in a row, 2 keepers and a short one, and then I just left. So I'm like, all right, I got 5 and only one of them's like small. Like I need these for tomorrow. Now that I got dialed in, I know I can catch them on a drop shot when I come back in the afternoon. So I'm like, I don't care if I get up there in the morning on day 3. So I went and I ran some buzzbait stuff, flipped some stuff, caught 1 small keeper. Then I went up there and I didn't catch anything. I don't think I caught anything at all there on day 3, maybe 1. I can't.
I feel like you caught one. I don't think I caught anything. Or maybe a short.
I might have caught one, but yeah, something. I ended up catching the rest of them, because I left there with 1. Then I went out and I flipped the stretch close there, caught my second one, came back, didn't get anything. And then I'm like, I got to get out on the main run. And then I didn't have a ton of time. Like I had like an hour with 2 fish and I was just fishing really fast. And I got my 3rd one, nice one, got my 4th one, nice one. And then I had like 15 minutes to fish and I'm like fishing. I'm like, all right, I got to go. We pulled up by where all those cows were. And my camera guy's like, well, they're standing up. My grandma always said the cows are standing, the fish are biting. And there was this one piece of wood off the point, and I threw my little bait up there and catch like a big one, like 3.5. And I swung it in the boat, and that was my 5th one. I had 6 keeper bites that day, and I caught 5 of them. But once again, I had a 1 over 3 pounds and 2 or 3 that were like that 1.5 pound range, nice ones, and then a really small one, but it was enough to keep the lead. So a lot of that stuff happened this week. That's the stuff you have to have happen to win.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if one of those fish gets off, you maybe don't even make the top 10 and get a chance to have Sunday happen.
And the thing is I think it was the 3rd keeper I caught. I missed it and then pitched back in, and it ate it. I let it swim off, and I set the hook, and I kind of hooked it. And I'm like, oh, dang it. My camera guy's like, that must be a little one. I said, it's not a little one. I saw it, and I was just like deflated. And I pitched back in there, and it takes off again. And I'm like, all right. And then I got him. Like 3 times it ate it, and I hooked it on the second time. Like, that don't happen. It don't happen. So
that happened a bunch in this tournament. Weird, like, and not just with you, where we would see anglers miss a fish and they would get multiple shots at it. Why do you think that's happening there?
They're just really aggressive.
Right.
Like them fish, like when if you're around them and they're like in that mode to eat, like sometimes I feel like you could catch them and throw them back and catch them again. Like they just are, they're super, super aggressive. So, and I've learned that since I've gone there for, this is the 3rd time. That's why I was fishing so much faster than these other guys. I'd be running down the bayou and be like, oh, whoever's over there on that bank. And I'd go fish like 3 stretches and come back, and they had moved like 20 feet. And I'm like, what the hell are they doing? And I'm just freaking like 6 or 7 going. And that's why I think I got on average better quality, because I was just fishing high percentage pitches and just going like pitch it in there, hit the bottom, pump it twice, reel it up, pitch it again, pitch it again, pitch it again. Like everybody else was, not everybody else, but a lot. Realized, like, just from because there was a lot of the same people up there, obviously, and you could tell how they were fishing, and they were just fishing a lot slower than what I was. I think that made a difference as far as getting a little bit bigger ones and catching more of those better quality ones, because I was just covering more high percentage areas.
Today's high-tech fishing world can be a real pain in the neck, especially if you're running the wrong mounts. Beat Down Outdoors, they bring the graph to you, and they support this podcast and care enough about you to make this a short ad read. Check out Beat Down Outdoors. Now back to the show. Yeah, and this tournament, more than many that I remember, the pre-tournament dock talk was super like, hey, more than half our field won't catch a limit. It's like, you get a few and you're doing okay. And weirdly enough, I think in anglers that makes them ultimately just slow right down. You know what I mean? I'm going to slow, and all the pressure in that area too. I've got to stretch. I want to pick it apart. I don't want to leave a fish, but yeah, you did totally fish different. Then we get to Sunday. So you're leading all 3 days of the tournament. You're the first boat to back in Sunday morning. Me and you got to hang out at the boat ramp. Nobody was even there yet. And you kind of talked about it then, but you did feel very calm, and I don't mean calm like, oh, I'm about to win this tournament. Calm like, hey, I'm going to go, and whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. Like it just felt like, I feel like when I talked to you at Toledo Bend last year, you were a lot more like, I need to do, like you felt the pressure of that moment a lot more. It felt like, and that's just how I read it from the outside.
No, that's exactly what it was. Like when I led day 2 and 3, going into day 4 on Toledo. And when I woke up that morning on Toledo and got up, I'm going to get beat today. Like I couldn't help that feeling. Like I was just like, it's going to be a tougher day for me. Like I could just feel it for whatever reason. But when I woke up this past Sunday, I was getting up at 4:15. I was getting there way earlier than anybody else all week. And I woke up and I'm like brushing my teeth and I'm like, I think I'm going to win today. Like I just felt calm. My heart, I wasn't like jacked up, and I just got ready, went there, put the boat in, and I'm just like, and you got people like interviewing you and other people, they want, it's like, they expect you to be like, oh man, I'm so nervous and I got to do this and that's just not how I felt. Because if that is how I felt, I would have said, yeah, man, it's going to be super tough and I'm not feeling great. And I really hope I can win and all the typical stuff. But I was just what I told you. It's like, yeah, I mean, I'm going to go fish, do what I've been doing. And if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and I'll win. If not, I still got a top 10 and, led all weeks. So it's good either way, but I want to win. And I knew I had the game plan to do it. And with less people up there, I really felt confident that that I could do it. Now, it was a magical morning, and without that, I wouldn't have won because it got so tough after that. Yeah. But it worked out good. I mean, you probably don't know everything that happened that morning, but like a couple things happened that, like, if it was a little different, I wouldn't have won. Like, I wouldn't have won because I wouldn't have been in that area at that time. Well, I tried starting somewhere else, and I kind of got pushed out of there, which is fine. I'd have done the same thing. He didn't do anything wrong. I'd have done the same thing. But once again, I wasn't going to deal with this person. As soon as he started doing what he was doing, I'm like, whatever, I'm leaving. And instead of sitting there and arguing, I just pulled the trolling motor, went around the corner, and won the tournament in 10 minutes. So it worked out.
The world's biggest flex. How good does that feel? Like everybody in this tournament, like you must feel like you could breathe fire at that moment. It
felt really good because, like, when I left, my camera guy could tell I was a little frustrated. And he's like, dude, you didn't need those little fish anyways. And I'm like, well, I kind of did want to catch some of them. Like everybody else was fishing for these release fish. Like, I might as well go in there since there's not many people here today. And instead, I just wasn't allowed to fish within 300 yards of there. So it is what it is. Like I said, I would have done the same thing they did. It's part of the strategy. He didn't do anything wrong at all. I'm not saying that. It's just, if that wouldn't have happened, I'd have been fiddle farting around there for who knows how long. And I went to roll around the corner and caught that window where I had 5 bites, caught 4 of them, and they were all quality fish. And like that, those 4 fish, it was done. I had 8.5 pounds with 4 fish. Obviously, I didn't know that. I felt it because I was like, dude, I got 8.5. I only got 4. I can weigh all these fish. I've got 5 hours. I'm going to get 2 or 3 more good bites. And if I get one of them in the boat, like they got to catch, all of them got to catch over 10 pounds. And the guys in the bottom, few spots, they got to catch 14 or 15 pounds. So I felt really, really good after that stretch. But like I said, what happened in the morning didn't happen, I wouldn't have been there at the right time because it was a real short window. And I knew that in practice, like you don't got long to get them on that buzzbait. You got till 8:30, 9 o'clock at the latest.
So I feel like we hadn't seen a lot of the buzzbait earlier in the week.
No, because I bypassed all that to go up to those tubes.
So
I missed that whole bite
specific. That was spot.
Yeah.
Like you knew.
Well, no. Well, dude, I could go and practice every morning. I could go stop on any random stretch in there and fish, and I would catch 3 to 6 good fish on it. And I was like, I told Atkins that. I told Bob, and like me and Doobie are good friends, and he was kind of spinning out at this event. I'm like, dude, just go do that for the first 2 hours, and you're gonna get a few good ones. Like I think it was maybe just because I had a lot of confidence in it, and because I was fishing faster, or maybe it was the specific bait I was throwing. I don't know, but if I stopped on a bank in that time period, I felt like, dude, I'm going to catch them. And like when I rolled into that cove, I started there on day 3 and I caught one small keeper, but the wind wasn't quite right. And it was a lot brighter morning. It wasn't as cloudy. Yeah. And like when I shut down on that point and I seen just the perfect breeze, the perfect angle, I'm like, oh my God, this could be, this feels right. And then I catch that first one and it's like almost 2 1/4, go a little further, get another one, put the tag on it, pull the poles up, go about 10 feet. And it was funny. I was watching the coverage this morning and you can see on my 360, they had the 360 up. You could see there was a blue waypoint on there. I caught a really good one right there in practice. And like, I catch that one almost 3 pounds. And that was all, couldn't have been any more than 10 minutes. So I had 3 and I'm like, oh my God. And then I go a little further and get another one. And that's where I'm like, oh man, these guys might be in trouble. So, it was good. It was an awesome morning. I could just feel it. I think I even said it on camera. I'm like, I feel like I'm going to get bit every cast. Every cast, I feel like I'm going to get bit. Just that sound of that buzzer and just them waves and it just kind of riding them and the watercolor and just the little points of the stuff I was fishing. It just is like every cast, I'm just like, oh, come on, you're going to bite it. I know I'm going to get bit. And even if I didn't, I'd be like, okay, this one I'm going to get bit. It was like, you can't create that feeling. Like it has to be organic. It has to happen in the moment. And like the last time I felt like that was the last 3 days on Seminole. And when I won the nation championship on Pickwick, those are the last 2 times that I felt like that. We're just like, okay, this is happening right now. So I wish I could harness it and tell people how to do it, because I could probably make a lot of money and retire now. But you can't. You just can't. You can't manufacture that, you know?
Yeah, but you say that, but because of that feeling, you wouldn't retire now. Like if you knew how to harness it and give it to people, you'd be like, I want lots of it first before I give it away.
Yeah, yeah. If I knew how to harness it, I wouldn't. I know we're in the age now where if you figure something out, you got to tell everybody and make videos and stuff, even if you're not the one to figure it out. But I wouldn't tell anybody. Hell no. I wouldn't tell anybody at all.
But here's one thing that stood out to me this week. And I've been a fan supporter of yours for a long time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I find you a very entertaining dude. And I've always said, like, Pat just needs his moments on camera. And I think that this was definitely one of them. But you were very open with everything. You know what I mean? Like we're in a weird time. And I don't know how much Bass Live you get to watch throughout the year, but we're in a time where people want to pull their hood up, not show their baits. And that's never been kind of how the show has ever been. You know what I mean? Like hiding your baits is, and I get why people do it in certain situations, but it's counterintuitive to literally giving the customer what they want. But you felt like your win feels like a very kind of old school win. Like the way you caught them, how you were willing to talk about all of it. Was that on purpose or is that just who you are?
Just who I am. I mean, I'm a humble person where integrity is my number one thing. Like I don't want to ever be in a position where, people question, my truthfulness, and I'm just not like that. Now there's certain times where like, I don't want to get scolded by a sponsor for promoting something else, but like if I'm using something other than what a sponsor of mine makes, I just might say, hey, I'm using a creature bait instead of I'm using a big bite baits fighting frog. You know what I mean? So I think people respect that a little bit, but like when they started drilling me about that buzz bait, like I'm not going to lie to people and say this is a whatever, because people know that. I mean, there was probably people who had some sort of photo recognition where they figured it out before I said anything. Like, I'm not going to lie to people because people see through that. I see through that. Like, so that's why I said, like, well, they don't sponsor me, but like, this is the bait. This is what it is. And this is why I like it. Like that's just who I am. Like, I'm not going to lie to people about it when it's like right out for everybody to see. That's just not who I am. My integrity is my number one thing. And I learned that just through my parents and through Shields. Like, you don't got integrity, you ain't going to be working at Shields for very long. So that's been a big part of my life for, forever, but especially the last 20 plus years of, Shields molding me into who I am.
That company has reached out to you, correct?
They did, yeah. Yeah, the buzzbait company did. I haven't got back to them yet just because I haven't been home. And just with stuff, I don't know how that works with some of the other stuff I got going on. But like, I don't have a wire bait sponsor. And I don't know if they're even in a big enough company to sponsor me. I might get like a sticker and a hat and maybe like one bait. I have no idea. But that's beside the point. Like, to me, that's cool to be like, if it's a smaller company, to like make an impact on them.
Yeah.
You know, because there's a lot of times where it's like, it's hard for us as anglers to like analyze and show an impact that you can have on a company. And I think especially when it's a bigger company where it's not necessarily as much of a blip when, you know, I caught them on a whatever bait, you know, when it's a giant company, it's maybe a little harder to calculate that impact. But a smaller company like that, where it's like, oh my God, they don't have a bait left to sell in like, from what I heard, within a couple hours, they didn't have a bait left to sell. And they're making posts of like, well, everybody's working full time on getting, you know, they got the shot. Like, that's really cool to me as someone who like makes a lot of my own stuff and like, and has been in the tackle business for 20 years. Like, that was a cool part of my job at Shields is I could find companies like Brazalo and all these other little companies and like potentially, you know, but even like when I was working with one jig company that I got with when we at the time had aligned similar goals, designed a couple really good jigs that I'm like, dude, if we get these going, like this will make an impact on your company. I mean, that has since that, you know, ship has sailed, unfortunately, but like, that's cool to me to be like, I made an impact on these people's lives. So that's cool.
I feel like too, that has changed in fishing. Like, I feel like that's how it always was, like almost every tournament but I feel like at that time people were, number one, way less educated on baits. So they were finding out about stuff that like, you know what I mean? Like now you go, I mean, I remember years ago working, you know, at Gagnon Sports, a place that I started, the first job I ever had in fishing when I was 13 years old. And I remember being at a trade show and showing a specific reel, and there'd be people would just be like so amazed by the knowledge. Now they walk in and they're like, oh yeah, that's got the 9.821 gear ratio. It comes with this many, but like they know more. So the education thing has changed, but I also think it's because guys just don't show it. And whether that was a sponsor or not sponsor, it was just you were straight up showing it and people were seeing the effects. The Shields.
Yeah. And I think too, like just
go ahead.
Okay. What's that?
No, go ahead.
Well, I just think that particular catching them that way right now in this era, that was very refreshing for people to see. Yeah. No, I don't even want to hear the three letters. I don't want to hear them. Like, I love catching them a lot of different ways. I think I showed that this week and throughout, you know, the years I've been fishing. Like I want people to be able to fish how they want to fish and catch them how they want to catch them. But I think people have, you know, been watching. They're like, holy cow, the dude's catching them on a buzzbait in a foot of water. This is so awesome. Like, it's so fun, you know, and they weren't even giant fish. Like that got people fired up versus, you know, some of the ways we've been catching them the last few years. Like, because it's more, I think it's more relatable to a lot of people. Like they're like, I'm going to buy one of them buzzbaits and go down to the creek I live on and throw it. Like, yeah, that's really cool to me. You know what I mean? So I think that was kind of cool about this week too, is just catching them the way I caught them. And it just was refreshing to a lot of people. And it was so fun to fish like that. That's how I grew up fishing. It's so fun. So, yeah, it's amazing what a bunch of 2-pounders has done. Like there's more excitement around a buzzbait today than there has been in a long time. Does it matter to you that you won a tournament? I mean, the least weight ever to win an Elite Series event. You have that record. Is that a badge of honor or does it bother you? I just like the fact that that blue trophy says I beat everybody. I don't care if it was with 4 pounds. You know what I mean? Like I beat everybody. Yeah. You know, yeah. I don't, and I worked hard for the ones I caught, and like, I like grinder tournaments like that. I like that. I feel like, you know, those are the ones that like, most people have the best opportunity to win at by having a couple, like one good day can carry you through the tournament. So like, yeah, regardless of the weight and what record, I mean, I won, dude. I fished an almost flawless week, 4-day tournament. Most people don't realize how hard that is to win. And especially on a fishery like that, because I mean,
and to lead every day.
Lead every day. Like that's just not common at any lake, but especially there. I mean, you saw the swings. I mean, I think what Mullins was, I mean, he freaking was, I mean, he jumped into the top 10 on day 3 and because he had 11 pounds.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to lead all 3 days there or all 4 days. It's just almost impossible.
Yeah, no, it's impressive. It's impressive because, I mean, I always say like the guy who wins, it's just the finish line. You know what I mean? There's tournaments where somebody leads for 3 days and then they get second in the tournament. Everybody's like, oh, you didn't win. But they literally led more of the tournament than the person who was leading at the finish line.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that feeling.
I'm sure. But you led it all. It's pretty unique, your title sponsor, Shields, that to go from working for Shields and then leaving that to chase this dream. I mean, that's a pretty organic, cool relationship, I would imagine.
Yeah, it is. You know, and it just shows like how Shields is as a company. Like I was scared, you know, when I was leaving, like, oh man, all these relationships. And then it's like, instead of them like getting mad about it, they're my title sponsor. And they're some of the most people that get excited the most about it. Like, you know, a lot of the people that I worked with initially when I got hired, like the guy who hired me is now the president of the company. Like I fished a tournament with him. He's been in my boat multiple times. A lot of the guys who I worked with, one of my best friends, I mean, he's super high. I mean, he runs his own store. Like a lot of these guys are very high up in the company now. And they're messaging me. My old store leader who, you know, was a mentor of mine. I mean, he messaged me like they get it. Like it's just a unique company. And I'm so blessed that they stuck with me and they support me. And I really feel like, you know, they all want me to do well. And it's just so unique. And they're so different than a lot of these other companies. Like I don't know. It's so awesome working with them. I love it. And I hope I never do anything to mess it up.
Wow. I think you're doing some good stuff for them. One of the cool moments of the weekend was seeing your parents show up. I was on the live set when I literally saw them walk in the gate, and I was just such a weirdo. I'm on live and I started waving because I didn't know that they were coming, and it was so cool. And who knew that we didn't know you were going to win at that point, but to have them show up, when did you first see them? When I got on stage. Come on.
Yeah, I swear. I mean, I was in the back in the parking lot sitting in the boat for an hour. And I knew my friends, Mike and Jessica came there. I'm sure they were there in the morning. So I seen them. So I was like, oh, that's cool. But they were actually at several tournaments this year because the business they run, you know, it's only in the summer. So they kind of travel around in the winter. So they were at several of my other tournaments. But they were back home and they're like, wow, we're going to fly down. So I seen them like, okay, cool. Like someone's here if I win or if I suck and get whatever and have to like mope around. Like I got someone to talk to and hang out with. So I get up on stage and I'm like stressing out. Obviously, I'm not looking at the crowd at all. I'm like in the boat, like freaking out and checking to make sure the fish are in the bag every 2 seconds because I think they're going to jump out. And then I get up on stage and like bring the bag up and I turn and look and I seen them all. I'm like, oh that's, you know, and I seen my parents and our friend Mark who lives on Lake Fork and, you know, my friends Mike and Jess. I'm like, oh, like this is cool. And then I knew I was going to win at that point. Yeah. So I'm like, this is going to be cool. And I wanted it. Like I wanted to win. I always want to win, but I wanted it more for my parents than me. Like it means a lot to me, but I think it meant a lot to my parents for sure. I know it did. Like it was a good moment, that something positive, that we have something positive to talk about. So it's cool. It was really cool.
Your dad told me it was one of the top 3 greatest moments of his life.
Yeah. I saw.
Pretty freaking cool.
I just saw. Yep. Yeah, I just saw Scott Argenbright, Scoot Daddy. He records for he made a reel for St. Croix. And my dad talked on it. And I literally just saw it. It's pretty powerful. Like, if you haven't looked that up, go on St. Croix Rod's page and look at that reel. If you want to understand the impact that it made, like, it is pretty powerful. I mean, he's a talented videographer. He's done a lot of cool stuff, but it's a pretty amazing reel that he put together. And it was, if you don't get goosebumps or a little tear, I mean, it's pretty powerful. So it was really cool having him there.
Yeah. No, it was, I got to spend quite a bit of time with them after weigh-in when you were ushered away to do a bunch of media stuff. I hung out with them, and just to see, I mean, you guys have been through some stuff, and just to see, I mean, and so rare, like, for just, you know how few sons there is on earth that can say, hey, I did something that my dad says is one of the greatest moments of his life. You know what I mean? Like, like every kid on earth, I think, feels like, I hope I made you proud. But to have them express that is pretty rare, dude. Pretty rare.
Yeah, it was impactful. I mean, and I could feel that throughout the week. That's, like I said, I could just feel like something was different, and because we've had suffered a couple other losses recently that it's just been a really rough patch. And that was like, I could just feel like, I need to do this. I need to, like, get this done for them and my other brother, and, like, just everybody. Like, I want them to, like, pick this trophy up and feel the power that it has. And I think it's going to make some things change for us, or at least for a little while.
Yeah. No, it's very cool. It was an amazing win. They were amazing to hang out with afterwards. It was awesome to see them all show up. And it's awesome to see things going in the right direction for you, because, I mean, it's not easy what you overcame, just regardless of personal stuff, but what you've overcome on the Elite, it's such a heartless, thankless, you know what I mean? Like, you are living a dream, but I don't think the average person realizes how many times you spend in a camper thinking, like, what the hell am I doing? You told me a story about Christy on day one takeoff. I told it on FS1, but it really stood out to me. Tell me about that conversation.
Well, I mean, like, I've seen since I've been doing it, all these people talk about you get in slumps, and I've always just been like, how can you like be in 90? Like, how can you have it that many things happen where you can't put it together at all? I mean, we've seen it all the time, but I've always just like, that's not going to happen. Like, I'm going to have bad tournaments, and like, I'm going to feel bad, but I'm not going to have like 6 bad tournaments. And then it started happening, and I'm just like, oh my God, like, I suck. What am I doing here? What am I doing here? Like, I just can't catch I can't do anything right. And you just feel really down, and that's common amongst all of us. But I'd never been to the lowest I've ever been was after Hartwell, ever. And after day 2, day 1 was good. Day 2, I had the biggest meltdown I've ever had on the water in my life. I was by myself, thank God, other than some people up on the porch that I think saw what happened. But I was done. When what happened on that fish happened, I was done. That was the closest I've ever been in my life to putting the boat on the trailer and leaving. It was horrible. And so then after you suck, you go work for Skeeter Yamaha. And I'm at the Skeeter Yamaha booth, and, Jason Christie's there, all the guys are there. And it's actually pretty fun because you get to talk to all the guys. But yeah, I'm sitting next to Christie, and I didn't say anything about how I was feeling. And he had probably his worst tournament ever there. And he's like, God, I was fishing on day 2, and I thought to myself, what am I doing here? I do not belong here. And I just looked at him. I'm like, dude, like you've won the class. I don't even know how many tournaments you've won, but you won the classic here and almost won another classic here. Like, I mean, if you feel like that, like, I mean, then it makes me feel a little bit more human that I feel like that because I'm a freaking peon. You know, I'm a mid-level elite angler at best, which is still good, but like, I'm not a Jason Christie. I'm not a Brandon Polnick. I'm just a normal guy that does all right every once in a while. But Jason Christie's telling me that. So it made me feel a little bit better. And then after I think it was the second day of the tournament on the Sabine, you know, I was still leading and I'm walking across the parking lot and he just kind of happens to be coming by me and he's like, remember what we talked about on Hartwell? I said, where you said you didn't belong here? I said, yeah, I do. And he's like, well, it changes pretty fast, doesn't it? And I said, yeah, it can. And he goes, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. It's going to happen. Just keep that in your mind. And then he just kept walking and I'm like, God damn, that's cool. That's so cool, man. So cool. So it's just part of the sport, ups and downs. And I went from the lowest point I've ever felt to the best I've ever felt.
Yeah. Well, I think you got lots ahead of you, dude. And it was an awesome victory. You're an awesome human. Your family is just salt of the earth, great people. And it's good to see good things happen for good people.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, I've kind of, like I said, I've prided myself on just trying to always do the right thing and just be a good person. And I think, you know, I'm in doing this for different reasons than most of these other guys. Like I just love to do it. And, I want to keep my integrity and character and I don't want it to ever be in question, even if something happens where, you know, something bad happens to me or I do something wrong, you know, that people know that I didn't do it on purpose. Like if I make a mistake, it's not because I did it intentionally. So that's the most important thing to me is to keep myself true to who I am and always have, you know, good character and integrity. That's number one for me. So it feels good that I won and feel like I did everything right and treated everybody right and got it done. So it feels really good.
Well, enjoy it, dude. You deserve it. And I think that this is just going to be the start of many great things ahead. And keep your promise. You can still win lacrosse.
I really want to. I've lost a lot of sleep about that tournament since it got announced. I've put in a ton of work down there. I mean, I fished down there for a lot of years. I'm really close to it. And I've fished some of my best friends. I fished a lot of days down there with, you know, tournaments and just fun fishing. Like it's a tough year because like one of my best friends who's actually going to be stopping over here in a little bit, he lives down there and fishes down there all the time. And I can't hardly talk to him because I'm so paranoid. You know what I mean? Like I fished down there with him last year, a few days. And now it's like, dude, you can't say anything. I don't even want to know if you won the tournament. You can't, just don't say anything. I don't want to get anything in my head that could potentially make me think I did something wrong. I mean, I'm so careful about it, but I just don't know how the human mind works. And, you know, if I have to take a polygraph and something pops in there that, well, I fished with him, you know, last June, like, will that make me think that I did something wrong? Like, so I feel bad because I almost have to be rude to him where every time he calls, I have to be like, don't say anything about fishing. I don't care if you were on pool 4, not pool 8. Don't say anything about it. Like I have some of my best friends live on the river and I fish with them all the time. So like I'm paranoid about that, but like I've put in a lot of work down there. I understand that place and obviously that can hurt you too. But like, if I can have a couple more decent events and be in the right mindset, like I said, I'm a really humble person, but I would be scared of me if I was some of these other guys, if I can stay in this state of mind and have some stuff go my way, because I want that one worse than anywhere else because I have so many friends in this area.
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of people down there supporting me and, supporting Bob and Caleb, Kufal, Shakur. Like there's so many of us from this area, Kyle Norsetter. I mean, there'll be a lot of guys or people down there supporting all of us. So I really want to have that moment where I can share that with a lot of the local people. But if not, I mean, if I have a bad tournament, Kyle Norsetter called me last night to congratulate me, and we talked for quite a while. And he's like, "Oh, you might make you'll probably make the Classic." And I'm like, even if I don't make the Classic, this has been a great year. Winning this trophy is more important than making another Classic to me because it came at a good time, and I think it could potentially, change some things for me if some stuff goes right. So, but I do want to win lacrosse. I want to win all of them, but I really want to win lacrosse, and I'm going to work hard at trying to do it.
Just keep being you, dude. You're a special person, and you have a special family, and it's cool to call you a friend.
You too, Dave. I mean, you have an impact on all of us, and I think it kind of gets overlooked that you're just a big part of the sport, big part of what we do, and you make it special. So I appreciate you having me on, and thanks for supporting me and trying to keep my head right when it's not right. And it's just, it means a lot. It really does mean a lot to have someone like you that I can honestly say is a friend and cares about me and how I feel and cares about my family. It's a big deal to all of us anglers, really. I mean, you're just a good person, and we appreciate it.
Well, I didn't say nice things about you, so you could say nice things about me, and I'm very uncomfortable right now. So I'm going to end this podcast.
No, so am I, but it's true. Appreciate it.
the one and only Pat Schlapper. Jake's take back in your life. Jake Latendresse, we missed you after Lake Fork. It was my fault. I mean, I was fishing and pre-shot podcasts, so sorry.
We've done that in the past, back-to-back events. Yeah. It's a lot. There's a lot going on between 3 days between events. So, yeah, it's all good, man.
Texas Swing was freaking incredible, though. Two very different events. I mean, somewhat
Extreme.
Evil to go from Fork to the Sabine River. I think the Sabine River played out as a very cool tournament when it was all said and done. But I think it just would have been a lot easier mentally and physically on the anglers to go from Hartwell to Sabine than from Sabine to Fork. But hey, who said bass fishing's easy?
There's nothing easy about it. And I read comments and listened to people and got messages from people about viewers, friends of mine, and just viewers that are, fans of bass. And, the comments are almost flipped where people watched Lake Fork for the big bass and, some things they weren't necessarily interested in. And then, like front facing sonar. And then, comments from the Sabine were, I don't really like to watch that because it's such a grind and it's really boring and the fish are dinks and all that. Yet the people that watched it, came from a different realm and watched it because it was a grind and it was very competitive and it was really close and ounces really mattered in that event. So, and, the young guys that were, that are normally looking down at their grass were fishing the bank, and trying to figure it out. And they did really well. And I thought that was a very interesting, angle and perception of the Sabine River event. Honestly, that was probably the funnest event. I know I'm jumping ahead, but that was probably the funnest Sabine. I think I've been there 4 times now. I don't remember, but that was probably the funnest time that I've had as a camera guy, fishing in this in the Sabine system for various reasons, which we can talk about a little bit later.
Yeah, no, I mean, I said it on live on Sunday. I think it was the most fun championship Sunday we've had at the Sabine, just because, I mean, you had your eventual winner catch them on a buzz bait. We had tons of spinner bait action. We had, everything. It was like an old school bass. It was everything that people kind of predicted going into it. This is going to be an old school Bassmaster style event, and that's what it felt like. A lot of people erased the belief that they can't do that without a graph. There was a lot of young anglers that showed out, and I feel like there was a lot of young anglers that went into that wanting to prove a point. But before we get ahead, let's kick things off with Lake Fork, where you spent the week with Kyoya, and you got to see a lot of stuff go down. And obviously he didn't end up winning that event, but what he did that week was amazing. Even more so the next week to back up, to go to Sabine, to overcome, don't think about it wrong. I mean, just because Kyoya doesn't talk a lot, he felt the pressure of that moment. He felt the pressure of that record. He felt, and backstage, he definitely was crushed after not winning that event. But to do what he did, to drive 5 hours down the road, go to a totally different fishery, a totally different way of fishing. Like if we went from Fork to Toledo Bend and he did that, that's understandable. But from Fork to Sabine to do what Kyoya did,
180.
Incredible.
180.
Incredible.
That's like going from, fishing to skydiving. I mean, it was 180. And anyone that I think that the interesting thing about Kyoya Fujita, and we're starting to see a little bit more of him come out of his shell. He's learning, his English is getting better, and he's starting to get it. I thought it was really funny that he didn't understand that there was a tie. He was like, what? We'll talk about that because that was hilarious. But he's starting to come out of his shell, and he's even showing his baits more. And I
think that was all due to the fact that he was fishing shoreline and he was not. I mean, he knows he's got some secrets. We'll talk about that, but
we'll talk about it.
We'll see. We'll see if he starts showing his baits as much as 10 killer when he's back offshore.
Right. So, he's the interesting thing about Kyoya is his mystique, because you really don't know as much as you know about him. You really don't know that much about him because he keeps everything tight to his chest. And I mean, everything you and I know, and a lot of people know that he literally, if he could wait until the national anthem to put his boat in, he puts it in 2 minutes before the national anthem. Sometimes, he's putting in during the national anthem. And I think he does that, to stay away from the media for various reasons. And he just likes to be alone. He's very introverted and very focused. I mean, the one thing that we haven't seen up until now is how he transitioned coming out of an emotional, breakdown basically after Fork and turning it around and completely forgetting about that and damn near winning Sabine. And that to me is an incredible personal accomplishment. Everyone knows how difficult that is. And switching gears the way that he did, that to me was probably the most standoutish thing that he did in the last two events combined, above and beyond everything else, was just to switch gears and be successful the way that he was.
Yeah, it was incredible.
What he did at Fork. I mean,
let's get into Fork.
Yeah. He was the last few events. I've been really fortunate and we haven't made big, long runs. He basically came out of takeoff, went under the first bridge to the north and fished the first three coves. I think it's Creasy. I can't remember the name of the first cove, but that's where he caught most all of his big fish. And the interesting thing about that was, I was with Lee Livesey on day one, and it didn't turn out the way he wanted. All of his fish left, and then when he tried to go to different places, as we've talked about before many times, with guys fishing their home lake, is when a lake fishes as small as Lake Fork does with 100 boats on it, it's really difficult to get into a rotation because most of these guys know where all the spots are now because it's small, and they've seen Lee win there twice and done, seen all the things that Cobb did and Patrick Walters did and everyone that's been successful there. So there's really no hiding place anymore on Lake Fork. And that was very challenging for Lee. But the interesting thing was, I remember at the end of day one with Lee, he said to me, these fish, there's only one place they can go, and that is out from where he was. He was fishing back in the creeks and up on the bank. And, sometimes he was looking for bedded fish. Other times he was searching for pre-spawn or post-spawn. And it was really an in-between transition period, which I think is really challenging for a lot of people, to figure out when they're in transition like that. And it may only last a few days, but you only got a few days or a day to figure it out. And Keoya was fishing in the outer, on the outer edges of those points in the trees. And it reminded me a lot of what he did at Toledo Bend last year when he won, because he was fishing for suspended fish in trees in deeper water than I don't know what everyone else was doing because I spent 3 days with him, but he was obviously using front facing sonar, and he was searching for specific fish. I mean, he would bypass, he would see certain things and literally go right over those fish and trying to find specifics that he was looking for that he knew, these fish would bite, or he knew he could entice these fish. So, and the fish he caught, I mean, I don't know how it looked on television because I was there all day, every day. But when they were cutting back and forth to him, that had to look insane, catching the fish that he was catching on spinning rods. I mean,
yeah,
that had to be pretty cool.
Well, I mean, clearly he uses spinning rod a lot, as we saw in the Sabine River, even flipping with a spinning rod. He used a casting rod there at times, but obviously he's very comfortable with spinning rod. But as you told me during the event, I mean, he was using heavy line on that spinning rod. It's not like it was a finesse.
Yeah, and that's probably the most common question that I've gotten on social media. What kind of line was he using on those spinning rods to horse those big 7 and 8 pounders in? And so everyone knows I believe he was using 50-pound braid and 27-pound fluorocarbon leaders, and his leaders were very short. And something that a lot of people probably didn't know was that he was using a glide bait on a bait caster to get reactions out of fish to tell whether he wanted to continue fishing for a specific fish or not. So I would say about 10 to 12% of the time he was picking a glide bait up and pitching it in there after he was unsuccessfully using his little octopus baits to catch fish. So I thought that was pretty cool that he's starting to integrate different things into his game plans, and it's obviously working.
You told me one of the things during the event, you said the precision, the way he fishes this bait. I mean, talk to me about that.
He gets close. Okay. And he's not afraid to get within 15 or 20 feet because he's not casting his spinning rod most of the time. He's pitching it. And I think, one of the differences that he has in his techniques is that he does get so close. And what he does, he comes barreling in and he's searching back and forth with his live scope, and then when he sees a fish, he literally spins his trolling motor, and I almost fell out of the boat so many times because he's got it on 10 and that's his brake. He literally he reverses his pedal and goes straight back 180 and stops himself. And I've always thought by conventional wisdom that the wash from the trolling motor itself would spook the fish. just going that fast because he's so close. He's 15 to 25 feet from the fish that he's going to target. And then when he takes his bait, he pitches it out there over the top of him, and then he reels it down a little bit. And then when he gets to it, he literally, he either twitches it once to get a reaction, and when he gets a reaction, he twitches it twice. It is. I mean, I know bass fishing is a cat and mouse game, but there's nothing more cat and mouse about it than what Kiyoya Fujita does with that weird octopus. I don't even know what it looks like, a landmine or something, or a floating, submarine mine bomb. And whatever he does, it must have this jellyfish action that just intrigues these fish, because he's on a different level with that thing than most people are.
Avco not only makes incredible outdoor clothing, but they care about anglers with their 10% pledge. Avco and the Shed family donate at least 10% of the company's profits to conservation and making fishing better. Now back to the show. If you see that bait underwater, I mean, all of those legs kind of move independently, and that's why they're so expensive. You think of like casting a rubber bait to have all those tentacles and how hard, and I would assume the failure rate's giant, like the amount of them that actually work when you put it in the mold. But all of those legs are movement, and that's the one thing that stands out with the Japanese guys. They are very, very into movement. Like all of their baits are a lot of movement.
Dude,
but movement without movement, if that makes sense. Like,
yes,
they're not moving
never still
a ton of water. Like, they're not moving 10 feet at a time, but everything's always moving, although the bait's moving just a few inches at a time.
100%. And there's something, this is going to be somewhat of an oxymoron when I say it, and I hope I don't misrepresent it. There's something natural about that, even though his baits have nothing to do with the natural. I mean, forget match the hatch, because that ain't what he's doing. There's nothing in that entire lake that looks like whatever that thing he and Taku fish with. But the movement is so natural and so lifelike, regardless of the shape of it. That's, to me, what curiosity does kill the cat in that situation, right? I mean, that's what it is. And I noticed, like, he's never in Taku. All the Japanese guys recently, say in the past 3 to 5 years that I've covered, they all have a different kind of jerking action or twitch. It's a twitch. It's not a jerk. It's a twitch. And they do something weird. And this morning I saw a clip on Instagram of this new Japanese bait, and it's hooked. It's the eye is on the side towards the head, and it's a minnow bait, and they cast it along, let's say at Pickwick, or some of those Alabama river and lake systems down there up against the limestone walls. They pitch it into the wall, and they pull it back, and it looks like a fish. You know how goldfish or aquarium fish will get up on the edge of the glass on top of the water, searching for, algae or whatever it is they're trying to eat. It has this action. And I watched this morning, and I thought to myself, the Japanese mentality and the microcosm that they live in right now, especially for bass fishing, and the design of baits are all focused on what you just said, movement. Yeah. And it's got this natural movement, and they have this keen sense of authenticity when they see, let's say, someone's out, Kyoya's out fishing during the off season in Japan, and he sees a minnow doing something and a bass come up to eat it, or not even, he just sees a minnow doing something enticing. They're going to go back into the laboratory and try to figure out a bait that mimics what they just saw at that very moment. And I think that's a huge difference in their bait manufacturing mentality right now versus everyone else. Not the looks, not the natural visual effect of it in terms of it's, it matching exactly what's in the water. It's the movement, and it's truly incredible.
I have a weird theory, and nobody will know what's true and what's not true except for the bass. But I have a weird theory about all those tentacle style baits, whether it's the molded one like he was using or it's actual living rubber jig skirt type material.
Sure.
If you look at them in the water, and then if you look at a jig in the water, like if you really look at underwater footage of a jig, I mean, that's exactly what a jig does. Like we all think of a jig because when you look at it in your hand, none of that stays together. Like when a jig's most effective is
flares.
When that's flaring, when it hits the bottom and it flares,
and the claws come up.
Yeah,
like it's defending itself against a predator. Yeah,
I think that bait style. I mean, everybody tries to figure out what it's supposed to imitate, but I just think it's a jig that doesn't move, that stays in the strike zone longer. You
mean what the Japanese guys are using, those
tentacle style baits, whatever you want to refer to them, whether it's the Kyoki or it's any of those tentacle style baits. Like I think that under the water they look just like a jig. Like I think weirdly, I think we're way overthinking it.
Flared.
It's just a flared jig. You know what I mean? Like if you look what a jig's doing, except it's moving through the water column quickly. You know what I mean? Like when you're swimming a jig or you're popping a jig, you're getting those puffs, but it just stays like that. And ultimately, the way they're fishing it, it's sight fishing. It's just using a graph. You know what I mean? Like it's the exact same thing. It's no different than Drew Cook shaking a bait, or, it's not like Drew invented that. I mean, Drew really showed it to a lot of people, but that's been happening for years and years where you would put a bait in front of a fish on a bed and you just shake it to bother it into biting. That seems to be what Joy is doing. Whoa.
I'm just saying.
Easy now. It tickles their lateral line.
Well, Kyoya, he was spotting fish in, I would say, 12 to 22 feet of water. He was probably more in 12 to 15, 80% of the time. And then, he'd go shallow, check there, and then go deep and check there. He's constantly checking everything. But when he would come across a tree that had multiple, say 2 or more fish in it, I feel like that's when he was more successful. And I don't know if he was creating competition between the fish or what he was doing. But then, he would catch, he caught one. There was one tree inside the first turn in the first cove that he was in front of this gazebo. There was like a little clump of trees, 2 or 3 or 4 trees that I could see on his graph. Excuse me. And there were 3 big ones in there. And he pointed that out. He goes, "Oh, they're, 3 very big ones." So he backs off and goes into spot lock. No, I'm sorry. He backs off and he pitches in there, catches the first one, and it's like a 5.5 pounder. Keeps pitching in there. 10 minutes later, he catches an 8 pounder. Keeps pitching in there. 10 minutes later, he catches a 7.5 pounder. And he's got, 22 pounds or 21 pounds of fish off that one tree in a matter of 30 minutes. And it's like, nothing's happening for a while. And then all of a sudden he's got 22 pounds in the boat, just like that, and I don't know, man, the way that was one of the things, one of the experiences I had or moments that I remember so well, was catching those 3 really big fish out of that one tree. And I remember, I was with Ben Milliken last year at Fork, and I'm not saying Kyoya could have gone over to that tree and done the same thing. I have absolutely zero, what's the word I'm looking for? Confidence that he could go do that at that tree, but just contrasting moments. And that moment I had with Milliken, he went up to this tree. He was talking about it all day. He's like, I'm saving that tree for this afternoon when I think they're going to bite. And there's like 7 or 8, 7 to 8 to 10 pounders under this tree. And sure enough, he pulls up on this leaning log or leaning tree trunk in the water and shows me his graph. And there's like 7 or 8 giants in there. And he goes all the way around those fish with his trolling motor, and you could see the fish following his boat all the way around 360 degrees. And he did everything that he could to catch those fish. He even went in and flushed them out, went in and bumped the log to flush them out to see if he could isolate those fish on their own and create a different reaction. And it just didn't work.
Wait
and
a second.
It was like,
so he's got fish in a tree. He circles it and then bumps said tree.
While he's casting to them all the way around it, trying to get them to bite. And finally, out of, I don't have enough time left to keep jacking with these fish. I don't know what to do. They won't bite. There's 50 pounds of fish under this one tree right now. And they won't bite. So his last tactic was to go in and bump the tree, flush them out, and try to isolate them. And I think actually he did. He caught one of those fish casting a jerkbait, I believe, after he isolated them, but then it was over. I don't think he could even find the rest of those fish. So my point being, somehow Killia found a tree that was very similar to that was holding multiple giants in it, and he catches all 3 of them.
Sorry, Curia wasn't bumping the tree. You're talking about Milliken was bumping the
Milliken
tree.
Last year, yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I hope I didn't confuse everyone.
It was very confusing for me.
I was just contrasting techniques and concepts and mentalities and trying to catch those fish that wouldn't bite. And so, I don't know. Killia's, I think Lee Livesey said it best. We were, I went to a little cookout one night and was hanging out with them and hanging with Lee. And he said it best. He goes, he's just on a different level. Like with front facing sonar, he's just on a completely different mentality than everyone else. And I think his success speaks for itself.
Answer me one question, because I have a theory. Okay. And I looked every day and they were the same. Those rods on the front deck of his boat when he backs them in, are those all decoys?
No.
He uses some of them?
The rods aren't, the baits are.
Okay. That's what I mean. Like the rigs that you see in the, okay, man.
He switches baits. Like when we're coming into the dock, he takes his important baits off. He does. And I'm going to say this. Hopefully the Japanese guys won't get mad at me. When he opens his rod locker, all those funky baits that he doesn't want everyone to see. I ordered 6 of them. I don't know. They're not the same exact ones, but I ordered the ones you can get off of Spro's website. And they come with little like coat hanger hooks. Yeah. Every one of them, they come in clear boxes. Yeah. So they're all dangly and they're not deformed, and they've got these hooks on them. And he takes them out of the box and he hooks them all along the side of his rod locker. And there's literally like 30 of them in there. But the interesting thing is they're so durable. He uses the same one the entire tournament. And unless he loses one, and I only saw him lose one of those baits. And of all the times I've covered Taku and Killia fishing with those tentacle baits, I've only seen either one of them lose that bait one time. And I was like, well, they must only have a few of them. And then when he opened his rod locker, I was like, no, there's like 30 of them hanging in there. So they're very durable baits.
Talk to me about his precision. Like as far as the boat goes, he'll tell you where to stand in the boat and everything, correct?
Yeah. And that changed at Fork because we had a marshal in the boat. So I had to move more towards the middle of the back deck. Normally, he wants me to stand right behind, and I've confirmed this with other camera guys that have been with him, and this is the same thing. He wants you to stand literally right behind the passenger seat backrest on the back deck. So, and this comes into play as to why I think his day 4 didn't go his way.
Wind is his enemy.
100%. 100%. Those fish were still there, but he was actually, he actually didn't even go. I mean, at the end of day 3, he had 34 or 35 pounds. I don't even, it was some crazy number. And so for the last 45 minutes in the same area, he went out a little deeper and searched some different tree lines a little further down to expand his area. And he found like 4 spots. And I remember talking to you when I came in that afternoon or that night. I told you, oh no, he's got plenty of like he found some new spots in that spot that he's going to catch him again tomorrow. He's got 30 more pounds to catch. And the wind jacked him because he can't read his graph, or he doesn't see what he needs to see on his graph when it's bouncing around like that. That's why when I'm in his boat as well, I'm literally a statue back there pretty much all day. When I go down to change batteries, I like go down really slow. When I come back up, I'm like a statue, and I obviously do it for him so that I don't create any, distractions for him. But he's very precise with all of that stuff, and 100%. The reason he didn't do as well on the last day is because of the wind, and he went way back in those coves and up in those creeks. He went way back up in there to get out of the wind, and what did he catch day 4? 22 pounds? Something like that?
Yeah, which sounds fine, but especially after Sabine. But if you go back to Lake Fork terms, 22 pounds was like
10 pounds short.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Trey McKinney caught 38 pounds the final day.
I know. That was insane.
Dude, and the truth about that tournament is that was Trey's. Like, he could have gone back to back as champion because day 3 cost him. I don't know exactly what happened, but day 3, he weighed in like 21 pounds.
I think he lost some big fish at the boat, like some big ones. Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah. I've heard more and more. I want to say this on the show. I've heard more and more positive things from people like John Cruz. I'll just say it. He's been following Trey McKinney since he was 14, 15 years old. And, he talked about him when we were in the boat at Sabine. He just said that kid has been winning everything. Like, he won a BFL event when he was 15 years old. And, it was before front-facing sonar and all that crap. He's like, you don't want that guy behind you because he can catch him however he wants to catch him. And I keep hearing more and more positive things about Trey McKinney. And I'll say this out loud too. You and I've talked about this. I've yet to find anything negative about Trey McKinney other than other people being jealous of him, because he's actually, when you talk to him, he's actually a really nice kid. He's pretty funny, and he knows what he's doing.
He's great on camera.
Great on camera.
He and I've said this a lot of times. I judge anglers 100% on what I see. If I literally judged anglers on what you hear, because throughout the years, the so-and-sos come over and I've heard stuff about that person. I've heard, they compete against each other. But so I have no choice but to judge people on what I see. And what I've seen with him is, he's made some dumb calls because he's a 19-year-old kid. He's done some kind of bonehead things.
Sure. But
I'm still searching for the evilness that's that weirdly has been created. Like, this kid's, he is literally, every time I've seen him, and he's just delivered at every single, like, literally you put him on camera and you're like, oh, he's not going to talk. No, he he's great on camera.
He rolls it out.
Yeah. I think his problem in life, in some situations, he's too good. He's too good at angling.
Too good at
he's too
age.
good at on stage. He's, I mean, that poor kid was born pretty and good at his job. Like that's his. It's
a curse.
His trials and tribulations. But I think he's also fit into his own now. And at some point, people got to be like, hey, guess what? I guess he can fish. Wrong. I mean, he can catch him everywhere we go. He's in contention for Angler of the Year again. Let's be honest. If he doesn't do a bonehead thing and forget what time his check-in is, which, again, he owned. When that happened, everybody pointed out his mom called him. He told me straight up in the interview we did, he said, hey, I was going to be late anyways. My mom calling me did nothing but just get me back quicker, but I was going to be too late anyways, because in his head, he was 30 minutes later than what he was for checking in. I guess 15 minutes into that, his mom called him, and somehow that's turned into that in itself. I mean, I didn't even expect to get into this, but you've heard me say this, that in itself, that the fact that his mother, you know what I mean, traveling with him, they need to cut the apron strings. Come on, man. Like, dude, Patrick Walter's parents are at every damn event. Nobody says a word. John Cruz's dad, Sabine River was the first event that I don't think John Cruz's dad was at. Robert G's mom, Joy, is with him at every event, cheering him at every take. The list goes on, but somehow for Trey, it's been vilified. So I can only judge from what I see, and what I see is the kid's pretty freaking good.
I'm done talking to other people saying give him a break. This message will go out to Trey McKinney himself. Just keep doing what you're doing, kid, because you're doing it right.
Yeah. And if you keep doing it like that, guess what? There's going to be a certain percentage of the population that hates you forever.
Yeah.
And they hated KVD. They hated, they hated a lot of people.
Alabama football. Duke basketball. Winners.
They hate the Kansas City Chiefs.
The Kansas City Chiefs.
See, even you hate them.
Gotta throw them.
I can hear it in your voice.
I gotta throw them in there, Dave.
They're gonna suck this year for sure. For sure. Let's get back to QA. We know so little about him. Explain who he is. Like, what is he like in the boat? Do you guys talk outside of fishing? Or
we do. We actually do. We're talking more and more too. Now we fist bump when we pass each other. He's getting more and more comfortable. I think people are showing him more and more respect, which offers him the opportunity to feel more comfortable, less insecure. This always happens. This always happens. And I'm not saying with everybody, but being half Japanese and watching my mom, grow up in the United States from 22. I didn't see her when she was 22, but she came over here when she was 22. And the barrier, there's something about Asian people coming to America that has this insecurity. I think probably because people make fun of them. Their accent is strange. It's vastly strange from other accents in contrast to the American culture. And their cultures are different. And Japanese people are very, very secretive. They're very respectful people. They're very loyal, honorable, all those things. So you put all those things up into one person, and you've got a shy person that is introverted, that's somewhat insecure, and just really came over here, doesn't want publicity, none of that stuff. They came over here to prove to themselves that they could compete against the best bass fishing anglers in the world. And they're extremely focused people, like Zen level. And that's who he is. Yeah. And I think as he comes out of his shell, he's a kid. He's a kid inside that wants to come out. And I love seeing him open up and laugh and start to become more open with the media on especially on day 4 when they're doing bait photos in the morning and all that stuff. I love seeing him come out because I think we've yet to see the best of Kyoya Fujita, and that's all in front of him right now.
I think we also way underestimate what it's like to live in a country when you don't speak the language. I mean,
Yes,
adjectives
yeah.
you used there were shy and introverted. I've never, ever in my life been referred to as shy or introverted, ever.
No,
but I can
you're opposite
guarantee
of
you, if
Kyoya.
I move to Japan,
Mhm.
that's what I mean, you don't speak the language. It's hard to communicate. Like, even like you said,
That's
with
a
the
good
Thai
point.
situation at Sabine. I mean, I had it happen this past weekend on live when I was talking about Takumi. And Takumi, we just see how good his English is and you just assume. But Takumi, I had said that he wanted to be a bee fighter. The word he used when he told me before was a killer bee hunter. So I used bee fighter, and somebody in the truck got a hold of that. Like I just said, hey, he once told me that if he wasn't fishing professionally, he'd be a bee fighter. I went back since then and looked at what he really said. He said killer bee hunter, but by bee fighter, he's like, bee fighter? What is bee fighter? He didn't know what it was. I mean, so I think we way underestimate just how tough what they're doing is. So
That's a great point. I mean, again, I've been to lots of countries all over the world, and until you figure out that you have to immerse yourself and basically open yourself up to learning a language and allowing yourself to be free with what you don't know, then you do clam up because you don't want to say the wrong thing. And I think over time, I mean, I think with Takahiro Omori is a really good example of that. Over time, you learn more and you open up more because you become more comfortable with yourself. And again, man, I'll bring this up. I think I've said it before a long time ago on your show, Dave, that my mom, one of her biggest barriers when she came to the United States was exactly what you said, the language barrier. And that created a challenge for her. And I still have it. I actually, in that back room, in that back door back there, is a storage room, and there's a little Webster's dictionary back there, a pocket version. And she literally used to carry that thing in her purse wherever we went, to boxing and gymnastics and football and piano lessons and all the things that we did, while she's waiting in the car or in the bleachers or on the grass or on a bench waiting for us to do our thing. She's reading this dictionary, highlighting words that she had troubles with. And she was doing her very best to learn the language so that she could fit in better.
yeah.
And I think that's probably what's going on. And it's, again, I'll say it again, it's so nice to see. I mean, Taku is just a phenom. He's on a different level of comedy and extrovertedness and all those things. But it's really fun to watch Kyoya come out of his shell. And I applaud him for everything that he's doing right now. He's actually a really, really good dude.
Yeah. With a very clean boat.
Very. John Cruz and Jay Shakurat, I was in their boats on the Sabine. They might give Kyoya a run for their money, other than having to splash water on the back transom when you have to go to the bathroom.
Well, it's only right. I mean, don't dribble.
No germs. No germs.
Hey, that tournament, obviously, wind isn't just the enemy of him. Wind is the enemy of forward-facing sonar. Let's be honest. That's when you've seen people struggle with it. And unfortunately, that tournament didn't work out for him. But again, I can't stress how crushing that was for him. He shed tears backstage. You don't get it when you lead and you don't get a chance to talk on stage the way it works. And most people, to be honest, don't want to talk in that situation. They just want to kind of get out of there. but he was very emotional backstage. And even when I saw him at Sabine River, I went up and I gave him a hug. I mean, I don't know that he hugged back. I mean, it was a lot like I was hugging.
Yeah, it's a lean.
It was more of a, and I said to him,
lean.
I said, you should be proud. What you did last week was amazing. And sorry it didn't work out. And he looked at me and he just said, I lost tournament. I did not win. Like, he's so driven to win. And this is his dream. Such a dream that he traveled across to the other side of the world to chase it. Somewhere where and let's be honest, things were going pretty good for him in Japan. I mean, it won 4 Angler of the Year, 6 of their pro level tournaments. There's question it might have been more than 6. I had heard it was 6, but it might have been. So he didn't have to make this move. But the reason he made the move was because he wants to be the best in the world. And he's a pretty cool cat. So
it's really interesting. There's a lot of that going around. And from Japanese to America, you look in baseball with Ohtani, and I mean, the list goes on with Japanese baseball players, and even in the boxing world right now, Inoue is probably right now pound for pound one of the top 3 boxers in the world. He's Japanese, and you look behind him. As I looked into his career, I looked behind him. When there's people that are looking up to him in Japan that are training with him in his style, which is very different. He's got a completely different way of training and mentality about it, which makes him one of the greatest fighters in the world right now. And you can see that inspiration causing a movement behind him that's going to come up, and those guys are going to get even better, just like they have in fishing, just like they have in baseball. And it's a mentality. So, and I'll say this too. I'm really proud of the way people welcome Taku and Kyoya in the crowd. Before it almost seemed like there was no reaction when you would introduce a Japanese guy to come out on the stage. There was less cheering. It was just sort of neutral. And now those guys get big ovations from even people in South Texas, which is completely different culture than everybody else. So I find that to be pretty cool. What are you going to say about that?
You threw me out with your South Texas line.
Well, they're different.
Just so you know, the words shared in this podcast came from Jake, not from me.
Yeah, I said it.
I love me some Texas.
I do too. I love Texas.
I've run a Yamaha outboard for over 30 years. It has got me home safe each and every time. If you enjoy this podcast, remember, Yamaha supports it and they care enough about you to make this ad read very short. Now back to the show. Hey, here's what I thought was cool about that event. You talked about fighting, and you know, I love boxing, I love MMA, and I think one of the coolest things about all of that is you have coaches that are trying to find a weakness. And when you see the first few rounds and you're like, this fight's going to end like this because so-and-so's peppering them. A lot of times it doesn't, because there's a coach that's like, hey, when he faints, you bite. And that's, hey, he's when he swings, he drops his guard. You know what I mean? And this is what you have to expose. Our sport is a sport. It's very different, but it's a sport. And what happened with Kyoya, it proves how it's a sport, because at that point in the tournament, there was zero weakness in his game. Like, there was zero reason for him not to win this tournament. There was zero reason for him not to break the record. Let's be honest. At one time, that 31 pounds, 10 ounces or whatever he needed the next day seemed like, well, yeah, he's just going to go do that. But it changes. The conditions change it. And that's what was cool to me. You know, the wind got a little bit more intense and it changed things for him. So you couldn't have predicted that. But that's what I love about professional fishing, that whether it happens to the angler or it happens to nature, things get exposed. And that was a weakness in his game. Then we went 5 hours down the road to the Sabine River. And nobody probably picked Kyoya in fantasy fishing. But you made a mistake if you did not pick him, because he almost freaking won that tournament. But this is Jake's take, so let's have a look at who were you with at the Sabine.
Jay Shakurat first 2 days, and then John Cruz the second 2 days. And I had never been with Shakirat before, and I was looking forward to that day at some point. You know, I hope to be in everyone's boat. But Jay's one of those guys that's been so consistent over the past few years that you want to get in his boat and see what he's doing, see what he's like, interact with him. And I've always taken him as a very quiet, unassuming, shy kind of person, but really that's pretty much opposite of what he really is in the boat. And he's very, very competitive.
Yeah.
Like that's why he does well. I mean, he's like Welcher. They kind of remind me of each other, actually.
How?
They're stone cold and they have that stoic face.
Yeah.
Poker face kind of approach to everything. You know, they don't show much reaction even to the media or the crowd or their presentation on television, but they're very, very intelligent. They're both extremely cerebral anglers, which they all are. I mean, we could say that about all of them. If you're not cerebral in this game, then you're not going to succeed because, like you just said, you have to adjust to the conditions constantly.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Know what the bait's doing. Know what the fish are doing. Know why they're going to choose one micro environment over the other. And I think this Sabine, and you could correct me if I'm wrong because I was only in 2 different boats, but it seemed like, and I'd like to say this too about the Sabine event this year is the flooding took all the retread fishing pretty much out of it because no one was fishing where, you know, Brock and Matt Robertson and Kenta and all those and Hunter
until
Schrock.
later in the event.
Yeah, later
there was
in
some
the
retread fishing that happened Saturday and Sunday,
late in the afternoons too. Yeah, but for the most part, it seemed like it was more of instead of the guys that were successful like Pat Schlapper, it wasn't about finding the biggest stretch of bank that didn't have people on it, which this year the Sabine fished extremely small.
Yeah.
Like that was crazy. Everybody was crammed into a really small stretch of river and canal systems. And that made it very challenging for people to get into rotations and, you know, all what small fisheries, you know, bring to the table. But it seemed like the people that were really successful found little patterns and they caught their fish in micro environments. And like Pat, I don't know where Pat was. I don't think I saw Pat the entire tournament in terms of, you know, after takeoff and during the tournament itself. I don't think we passed him one time. And I know that Coop and Lee Livesey and maybe one other person had found an isolated area on their own and they kind of had to themselves. But it seemed like those guys were the ones that were successful that found an area that they could lock in on and not get distracted or disturbed by other anglers. Was that not true?
Yeah. I mean, and in some situations it was bad turned good. Like Coop's situation, the whole reason he had that area to himself is because it was chocolate milk. He said the water was so dirty. Even in pre-fish, he said he went in there and actually left the first time, said, I got to find something cleaner, but then went back there and put his head down. And he was like, these fish are used to this color of water here, so I'll fish here. And he had that area to himself. A lot of anglers, you know, did a musical merry-go-round, whatever you want to refer to it, on Taylor's, because it had the cleanest water. But yeah, no, it was cool to see. And obviously the fish are small, like compared to Fork. Let's be honest, the fish are small everywhere. When we went from Fork last year to Grand Lake for the Classic, I remember thinking, boy, these Grand Lake fish are small. You're going from Fork, nothing. I mean, short of like, let's have a tournament on El Salto or Falcon or something like what it's Fork. It's
Right.
it's
7 and 8
Clear
pounders
Lake.
on a regular
Like that's
basis.
it's
Yeah.
about like that's
Yeah.
what you got to go to after that too. So the fish are small, but the challenge is the same. The guy who catches the most weight figures
That's
them
it.
out. But I thought Sabine was cool because we saw lots of adjustments. You know, like you saw
Lots of adjustments
on the final day, about half our top 10 made, you know,
They went
changes
left.
to their game and
went
went
left,
different
yeah.
areas, including Pat. You know, the way Pat fished, you know, his buzzbait stuff. I mean, I just thought it was cool that way. It was kind of an old school tournament. And I think some of the stuff that happened with Pat that probably isn't getting talked about that I loved. Pat on camera was an old school Bassmaster. We've gotten into this horrible trend, and I get it, and Kyoya is the king of it. And I understand where anglers are coming from, but we've got into this horrible trend of hiding your baits. And I mean, it started many years ago. Edwin Evers was the first dude I remember hiding his bait on live. And then when the split happened, we got way away from that. Then you had Chris Zaldane explaining what was on his sandwiches. I mean, just giving you every bit of information. But we're getting into a disturbing trend of people just turning their back and hiding baits, because I get what they're trying to do. But part of the sport is to see that excitement around a bait. Like, there's probably more people excited about throwing a buzz bait from those 2-pounders that Pat caught than I remember in years, just because, I mean, he talked about the bait. I mean, it wasn't even a company sponsored by. I hope they sponsor him now, because I've heard them all over social media talking about how busy they are now that Pat won on it. So hopefully Pat gets taken care of for that. But I feel there was a lot of cool things that happened at Sabine that stood out to me as good for the industry.
I've heard a lot of great comments on social media about the Sabine event. You know, the fish weren't big, but that's what we wanted to see. And it was a shootout. It was who could catch the biggest little fish and who could adjust the best. So, Taku, we saw on day 4, I was with John Cruz. He was up Taylor's, first 3 days. He was successful up there, but it was crowded. And he thought even fishing down the bank and picking one off here, and there were lots and lots of 10, to 11 3/4 inch fish caught too, lots of them. And, you had to catch a lot of those and get through the law of averages to come across one. As soon as you think you had a pattern, Shakir had a little pattern going when he caught, was it, God, I can't remember now. Whatever day he caught, it was day 1. He caught like a 3-pounder right off the bat, and then some good keepers.
Yeah, that was day 1. That was day 1.
So the pattern that he was on were the small mats with wood in them, like a tree limb or a log coming through it, whatever it was. It was obvious that was a pattern. So he locked into that pattern, and he started. He was looking for those specific, speed casting through the in between stuff, as to not miss an isolated random fish somewhere, along the Sabine River, and then getting to those spots and slowing way down and literally picking them apart and dropping his rigs in multiple spots in really small environments, and catching fish from one angle to the next or whatever it was. And then that pattern kind of fizzled away or dissolved, and then he had to, he went after that on day 2. He went straight to that pattern, and it wasn't working. So then he found another pattern where he was catching all of his fish in the oxbows of the old river channel. So he started locking in on that. And then in the afternoons, that kind of faded away. And I think, for a multitude of reasons, when you've got so many people fishing in front of you and behind you, one of the mysteries about a fishery like that in a situation where it's fishing that small, especially when everyone's flipping the bank, is that you don't know who fished there in front of you. You don't know how many times who all's been in there, and you're constantly wondering if you made the right move because you don't know how many people fished that spot. I remember, was it the last time we were at Sabine when I was with Kenta Kimura 2 or 3 days before he started fishing those retreads in that barge, that cove that had all those barge repair, where Brock won the tournament. Kenta was going way up Taylor, all the way to those bridges, to that farthest, I guess, northern highway bridge, where all those bridges and pipes were crisscrossing. It looked like a huge spider web in there of concrete and metal. And there was one pipe coming out of the concrete that had fresh water in it. And the water was super muddy, but it had that fresh water, and there was an open spot of clear water in there where that fresh water was dripping into the muddy water. And that's where he was throwing that little square bill, catching all his fish that got him to day 4. And again, you go back to, I go back into my Memorex or my Rolodex of memories on the Sabine, and it's constantly whoever makes the biggest adjustments wins that tournament. Even with John Cruz on the last day, we went in, to Square Lake and into those canal systems and ditches back there, and we saw Taku. John was fishing all around Taku, and he was actually there first. Yeah. And then Taku moves in, and Taku found a spot where the muddy water and the clear water met.
Yeah, there's a lot of that happening.
That's where he was catching his fish. So again, and it's not that John Cruz didn't know to fish a spot like that. It's just really, making decisions. Cooper Gallant said it best on stage. That system they're all that way, but that system in particular is all about who makes the best decisions at the right time.
Yeah. Mudlines were a big player. Patrick Walters caught a bunch of his fish on the final day. Yeah, fishing mudlines. It's a tough place to fish. It's a tough part of the world. I mean, it gets beat up by hurricanes and floods and different things like that. And that's why the population is what it is. I mean, it feels like it's perpetually stunted because it feels like we're always like, it's about to be good. And then a storm comes and it gets kind of beat up. But it's always a fun event, if you ask me, to cover. And I think it's natural that there's going to be some people that are like, yeah, I don't like that kind of event. Guess what? The week before we were on Lake Fork where they were catching giants, and there was some people who don't like that kind of event. Mm-hmm. Not every event is for every person. I think the more difference we have on tour, the better.
I agree.
Like if you look at our Angler of the Year race, and while you were talking, I just quickly looked at it. I mean, we got we got 10 Killer, St. Clair, and La Crosse coming. 3 more events, and your leaders, Jay Secure, followed by Chris Johnson, followed by Kyoya, followed by Trey McKinney, followed by Will Davis Jr., Patrick Walters, Bill Lowen, Shane LaHue, Takumi Ito, and Bryant Smith rounds out our top 10. It's going to be a fun last few events to crown an Angler of the Year, and we're going to 3 very different fisheries. So it's to me, that's what you want.
I think it's just interesting. We'll be in La Crosse for if Jay Secure holds on. That's our,
yeah, but that's no gimme, dude. Okay, so we go to 10 Killers key now at this point. Like, let's just remove, and you can't do that points wise, but if we had to, let's remove everybody outside 1 and 2. So now you got Jay Secure and our defending progressive Bassmaster Angler of the Year, Chris Johnson, who has had a silently strong season. I mean, doesn't feel like there's been a lot of Chris on camera, but he's caught him everywhere we go. We're going to 10 Killer. Let's give that a toss-up between the two of them. We're going to Lake St. Clair, where Jay Secure won an open, where Chris Johnson always catches him. Then we're going
Taku
to
does well.
yeah. Then we're going to lacrosse, where Jay Security, that's his part of the world. Well, guess what? Last time we were there, Chris Johnson got second in that event. It's very compelling, if you ask me, the way it's all working out. But yeah,
I think you're right. The diversity, the more, if you're an all around bass enthusiast, bass fishing enthusiast, or a bass fisherman, or just a fan of the game, or whatever it is, I feel like the more diverse the locations are, you shouldn't have any bias over one event over the other because they're so different. How can you not learn something from every event? They're just so different. I mean, I know humans are humans, but being in the back of the boat, the only thing, the two things that I noticed this event on the Sabine that were contrasting to past events was it was hot, but it was breezy, so
Thank
I didn't
God
feel
for
like
the
I was
wind.
gonna die. Oh my God!
Every time an angler on stage said, "I hope because the wind slowed down the tide moving out, which kept the dirty water," and so. But every time an angler on stage was like, "Gosh, I hope this wind will die," I was standing at that stage being like, "Shut your filthy mouth!"
Right now,
we got lucky in Texas, dude. To be honest, like as hot as Texas can be, Fork was not near as bad. I mean, it was kind of beautiful weather. It was perfect weather. You know what I mean? Like it would get to low 80s, but in the morning it was cool.
We had to wear our jackets.
Yeah. And then we got to Sabine River where, it's normally ridiculous and that breeze kept it palatable. But I feel like 10 killer, we're going to pay for it all. 10 killer, it's going to be freaking hot.
Yeah. And again, I feel like this time, based on the water levels, the tidal change didn't affect the Sabine adjustments as much as it had in the past.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't as big of a player, especially up Taylor, where they caught fish all day. There were lulls, but it wasn't like they had, 2 hours in the morning or 2 hours during a tidal shift where they knew they had to be in a certain location to catch fish. They had water. If anything, there was too much water when we first got there, and those fish were back up in the really, really thick stuff that was inaccessible. And as the water receded, they started to move out along the edges a little more. So that was a pretty cool part. It was a different Sabine this year, I thought.
Yeah, and if you looked at the dock at takeoff, you could see that every day. Day one, there was part of the dock that was under the water, and it slowly but surely it dropped. And the crowds there are incredible. I mean, both those tournaments. What makes Bassmaster events is the communities that put them on. And if you look at the last three we've been to, we went to Green Pond Lake and then Hartwell. I mean, that community has built a world-class facility. Then we go from there to Fork, where Caney Point Recreation Area is. If Green Pond has anything that challenges it as far as like a design tournament facility, that's it. And the only thing I could say, they're in phase one, but the only thing I could say they probably have less of than Green Pond is parking. But they still have plenty, and they also have hundreds of acres of land that they're going to continue to add stuff to. So both world-class facilities. And then you go to Orange, Texas, which, I mean, you look at that whole venue, it used to just be a field. They've got that bandstand there now, the thousands and thousands of people that come out to the weigh-in. It's amazing, but it's the same every time we go there. The 50 dudes that don't make the cut say it sucks. But the dudes that do, that see that crowd is like, wow, this is why we come here. It was a challenging event.
Even the guys that don't make comments on stage when they don't make the cut after day two, they make the comment. We still, the crowd that we still walk up here, in a below the cut line and still appreciate the crowd in Orange, Texas.
It's wild.
I like
amazing.
the food down there too, man. Did you eat at Spanky's?
I did. I saw you there that
Yeah,
night.
that's
Why
right.
would you
I saw
ask
you.
me such a? I mean, I
Dude,
saw you.
the food I had, that's the first time I've ever been to Spanky's, but the food I had was friggin' awesome. Did you like it?
Yeah, no, I didn't.
Really?
To be honest, no.
I did. I did.
Everybody, I made a bad order. I'll be honest. I was so tired after, and if I looked at the menu, there's a lot of I don't eat crawfish, so I mean that was easy out. I'm not a fan of crustaceans.
Dude.
And I was like, I'm going to go with what you can't mess up with, and I ordered a cheeseburger. It wasn't. I mean, a lot of people loved it though. Wes Miller said he had great shrimp.
Their boudin balls were perfect. Their crawfish etouffee over blackened catfish. I'm not a huge fan. I grew up eating catfish out of Kentucky Lake. I'm not a big fan of some catfish because it tastes a little fishy to me. And I was reluctant, but the waitress, who was fabulous, told me to order the blackened catfish crawfish etouffee combination, and I did, and it was freaking fabulous. Like, wow. I wish I had a plate of it right now.
There you go. Get the etouffee when you go to Spanky's. Old Orange Cafe is a place I went to too. Incredible. I met the chef and the owner there, and it was really great. But there are a lot of great places to eat. They're just good people, great people.
They are good people. What about Pat Schlapper, dude?
What about him? He's a freaking badass. Always has been, always will be. I think now the world's just starting to see who he is because he's getting the opportunity. That's the truth about the Elite Series. There's a ton of dudes like Pat Schlapper, but what that dude he double qualified to make the Elite Series. He qualified in the same year, winning Bass Nation National Championship, but he also qualified through the Opens, which is incredibly tough to qualify through both.
So
he
hard.
did that. He's made 4 classics, and he's had moments. It's, last year in Toledo Bend, I thought it was cool that him and Kyoya went down to the wire because him and Kyoya battled it out. If you remember, Schlapper had the lead going into the final day in Toledo Bend, and then Kyoya got him. And I said it on live, and I believe it. And Schlapper said it at Toledo Bend. I said to him, the dude you're against he goes, I want to be against him. He's one of the best at this.
He did.
And I want to beat the best. The irony of all of it was a year later,
he beat
Kyoya is trying to beat Schlapper, and Schlapper's one of the best at river fishing, at that natural style fishing. He's an awesome dude. His family's been through a lot in the last year.
He lost his brother.
Yeah.
I'll say this about Pat. Pat and I don't know him that well, but he and I are from 2 different parts of the country. But we have a mutual friend named Georgia Johnson, who she used to live in Fort Collins, and she knew him from his hometown. I think she met him at Shields when he worked there. They became friends, and she has always been a huge fan of Bassmaster because she loves to fish. She lost her husband. He was a veteran. She lost her husband a few years ago. But she loves fishing, all kinds of fishing. And anyway, she used to come to my bar, the Town Pump, when she lived in Fort Collins, and she's a huge supporter of that. When we had to raise money during the GoFundMe COVID era, she was a contributor. She was a huge supporter of my business. And so she brought Pat Schlapper and I together as friends because she asked me a few years ago if I would just do a selfie with Pat in his boat and send it to her. So she'd have 2 of her friends, mutual friends, in one photo. So that's how Pat and I became friends. And through the years, the thing I've noticed about Pat is, at least when I've talked to him, he has never blamed any of his ruts. Anytime he's ever been in a rut, he's never blamed it on anything but himself. He's always taken responsibility for that. And so, while I'm always a huge fan and I'm always rooting for the person that I'm covering in every event, deep down inside, I was really rooting for Pat Schlapper to win this event. And I'm so glad that he did. And congratulations, Pat. That was freaking awesome.
Well deserved. Well deserved. Two great champions too. We didn't even talk about Tucker Smith. I mean, he's kind of a badass. Turns out Tucker is exactly what the hype around him was. I
love his family too, man. His family are at almost all the events. I've been covering Tucker since his high school national championship days, and he's always won. He's Aaron Martins took him under his wing, and he comes from that mold. He's got that mentality, and all he's ever done is won. And I remember, I think it was after the college bracket where Easton won, Tucker came in second a few years ago when I was over at this Airbnb that his family had rented, and I was hanging out with them, getting to know them better. And I just felt like, they asked, like, man, you think he's going to do okay? We really want him to qualify through the opens. It's going to get tougher and tougher. And I remember telling his dad that when KVD told me this a long time ago too, I asked KVD, when did you know you were going to be a badass bass fisherman? And he said, right off the bat. I was just winning from the very beginning. And that's how I see these guys like Easton Fothergill, Tucker Smith, Trey McKinney. They've been winning their whole lives, and it's not like they're just going to stop because something else is going to happen and distract them to the point to where they can't do that anymore. They're good at what they do.
They're good. They work hard, and great champions.
Committed to it, and they've got the family support that helps them thrive because they've got people behind them that support them really, really well.
Well, this show thrives because we have people behind us that support us very well, and you are one of them. Jake Latendresse, another great jakestake. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, Dave.
That's it. That's all. Kicking it off with Schlapper and then backing it up with jakestake. I would say it was a pretty successful show. I enjoyed these conversations. I hope you enjoyed them as well. And if you did, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things that help stroke the algorithm and make this show social media cool. Streamers, also, whether you watch an Apple Podcast or Spotify, make sure to leave a review, a rating, even just a thumbs up, whatever you want to do. Just help us out because if you guys don't do it, then nobody will find out about this show and it'll just, won't really affect your life, but it'll really affect my life. And so help make my life, if this show's made your life just a little bit better, help make my life better by making sure to do the things on the appropriate platform that make that platform feel like you like this show. Because guess what? This show likes you. We'll be back next week. Giant announcement, giant thing going on next week that I'm really excited about, and I think you guys should be excited about, but we'll find out next week. Make sure you're tuned in. Have a wonderful week, and until next time, enjoy being, and as always, Bob Cobb, take it away.
Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, because Bob Cobb of the Bassmasters told you to. You hear?